Jupiter is entering Leo, the sign of the hearth, which is gonna pull us all into the realm of being more authentic, more sincere, and living in our truest self-expression. And we will be working with this energy from June 30th, 2026 until July 26th of 2027. And I'm joined today by the lovely Elfie. She's gonna help me to record the horoscopes. We're gonna first talk about the archetype of Jupiter and of Leo and them together. Then we're going to go through the transit timeline so you know what is kind of awaiting us from an archetypal level, like in the sphere and the cosmos collectively. And this is going to give you like a good introduction in what this also is going to mean for you. And then we're going to go sign by sign so you can watch for your sign and you know what it specifically means for you. And now let's introduce lovely Elfie before we start.
Hi, my name is Elfy. I'm an astrologer from the UK and I help people make sense of the narrative of their past to empower them in the present.
Amazing. And yes, we're gonna introduce both of you what the archetype of Jupiter means and of Leo means, because this is what this transit is about. I'm very excited for this energy. I don't know how you're feeling. I think a lot of people are excited. I think because people usually generally like to kind of work with this fiery energy of the heart, and at the same time, it's Jupiter. And Jupiter for me is always the planet of, well, yes, it is expansion, but it is also putting us out of our comfort zone. Right, it's expanding us in ways that aren't always comfortable. I think even now with Jupiter in Cancer, a lot of us have been experiencing a lot of grief, like tremendous grief and sadness that needed to create space for us to actually be more authentic. And I think now the story in Leo is more expanded because we're like, okay, what do we do all of this? Like, how can I actually express this outwards? I mean, Leo is also uh yang sign, so like a masculine sign, so it's more outward focused and outward directed. It's gonna be generally a very hot, fire oriented summer. Like we're gonna have a lot of planets and fire signs because there's gonna be a whole agglomeration with like Jupiter and Mars and the South Node in the sign of Leo. So that's gonna be a lot. Yeah, so what are your initial thoughts on like just Jupiter and Leo, both of them kind of as archetypes?
As archetypes, well, I think as you said, the with the Leo sort of being like young and the sort of young masculine sign, I think there's obviously going to be a lot of inner child stuff going on, particularly with that South Node conjunction. I'm not the first person to say that, nor will I be the last. Um, and yeah, with Jupiter, as you say, it's expansion, but that feels like such a one-dimensional part of it, and I think it's also going to add to the playfulness. Like there's something hopeful and optimistic about Jupiter a lot of the time. And so I think that it's going to be a really playful energy when it's making its less tense aspects. There's a lot going on. So I'm a little bit nervous about how dehydrated the sky is going to be. No, nervous, no, nervous is no, nervous is the wrong word. I'm a little bit um
Like cautious
I'm,
or
I'm anticipating. Yeah, I think
mm,
we're gonna need to be very intentional with where we put our energy because we're going to have this big rise of energy, and with everything else in air as well, with Uranus in air as well, that adds fuel for the fire, right? So it's
yeah.
it's going to be very hot, very intense, which can be really exciting. I think it is going to be really fun, but I think that staying grounded is going to be a lot more difficult.
Definitely. I also think, well, when I think of Leo, it's a fixed sign. So it's fixed fire. It's fire that is contained. I always think of Leo as like this big bonfire that is like in a contained manner. And then you have Jupiter there, which kind of like wants to break the bounds and expand that. Not necessarily make it into a wildfire, like Jupiter is not Uranus, but Jupiter wants to create it even bigger. And we're already also, if we look at, Chinese astrology, we're in the year of the fire horse. The fire element this year was inevitable to be like a very prominent element. And this summer is gonna like bring that even more to the surface. We're also gonna get some trines from Neptune and Saturn. And so, yes, it's kind of, I feel like bringing us almost a bit back into the year where we had that Aries stellium,
Mhm.
where it was cardinal fire. It's obviously a different modality. But I was like really rushing things in, and it felt quite intense, and people really had to learn how to deal with that intensity. And now that we obviously still had Jupiter in Cancer in a water sign, which I think at least tamed things a bit from the background. Now we're like not gonna have that anymore. I feel like now we're gonna be like an untamed horse or fire area, and it's gonna be pretty spicy. And while there's again many lovely things that come to my mind, I definitely also have a very cautionary eye out for this because even here in Europe, I mean, we're already feeling like this summer is so hot already
Mhm.
right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's gonna be even hotter and more dry because that's fire energy, right? It's hot and dry. So generally, we're gonna need to be extra careful to, well, hydrate more and also ground ourselves more because that's the elements that are kind of missing, water and earth.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. Do you have anything else to add to this?
I think I think the fact that Saturn is in Aries and the trines that will come from that, from the things moving through Leo, I think will hopefully be quite helpful in creating that container for the bonfire, as you say. Like I think Saturn is actually uh, quite well placed almost. I know that I know that Saturn in Aries is not, that's not where Saturn wants to be a lot of the time, but I
Yeah.
think aspect wise, hopefully the trines will kind of make Saturn feel like it's less struggling, whilst also kind of adding a container to the things that are moving through Leo, perhaps.
Yeah, fully agree. Um, yeah, from the other, I mean, I have already been feeling this now since Venus moved into the sign of Leo, really. And obviously I think Jupiter is just gonna like add another boost. Venus and Jupiter, by the way, will not ever conjoin in Leo. They will briefly be they're together, but even next year, like Venus and Jupiter will not come together in Leo. Like Jupiter will move into Virgo. So I think that's where the conjunction will happen. So yeah, sadly, we're not gonna get a benefic conjunction with both of them as we did this year, at least in the sign of Leo. But I think what I have been feeling already with Venus and Leo is that urge to like really go into self-expression. And I feel like that's a very big word to throw out there. But let me put it this way. When I think of Leo, I always think the medicine of Leo is to be the most you that you can be, to do the only thing that only you can do. And being yourself, like being just yourself, is a lot harder than people admit. Like it's much easier said than done because it's like who even is that self? And Uranus is gonna throw in Gemini throw even more questions around that and disrupt our narratives we have about ourselves. But I think for Leo, it's oftentimes what I find is that I'm going like into the essence. Like there are signs that bring me out into the universe and make me question things, which again is like the realm of maybe Sagittarius and Gemini. But then with Leo, I feel like oftentimes what I'm doing is I'm peeling back the layers and realizing who is already here. Who am I already as a person? And kind of learning to be content with that. Being like, oh, actually, I was just putting on masks and this is actually who I already am. Like, I just needed to be more of that. Like, it's completely fine that I am the way that I am. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and I think what was my point? I've already forgotten it now.
no worries.
I also wonder if we will collectively begin to question where does performativity and authenticity actually even end and begin? And is it actually not as clear cut as that? Like, I think there's actually a lot of gray areas because naturally we do change our behavior in different situations. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's performative in the negative sense. It could just
Hmm.
we're being think different things get brought out in different places. Perhaps with Jupiter being the ruler of Sagittarius, perhaps people will become more fluid in their identities and recognize that more, and we will reframe what we collectively have been perceiving as performativity as actually just human fluctuation in expression, perhaps.
Oh yeah, fully agree on that. I mean, again, like if we treat and maybe we can like kind of bounce into the transit timeline with this, is that Jupiter and Leo is getting like a lot of also like kind of harsh transits, and that also South Node coming in is going to disrupt a lot of things, because what the South Node does, and we're both coming like from a more Hellenistic view around this, is that the South Node is around decreasing things, which means when it's hovering close to Jupiter, it will actually kind of decrease the beneficness of Jupiter, which, yeah, doesn't can be good. It certainly will feel like more that the fire is being tamed, but it will also, I think, the image that comes to my mind is like somebody like wanting to like express themselves, but there's like just this shackles where it's like almost feels impossible and you like want to break free. Yeah, makes sense with Mars also being there during that time. So that is that. The well, okay, I have like the rough transit timeline here. Do you have the dates for all of them or
I
just some
don't
of
have
them?
everything, I don't think, but I've got a few. I've got the opposition to Pluto, and then the Cazimi, trine to Saturn. Oh, and trine to Neptune as well earlier on. I've also got the conjunction to Mars in the South Node. Um, I have the square to Chiron, and then there's actually that's followed by two trines because of retrograde
Okay.
mode as well. So I've got that written down.
Okay, great. Is what is happening first? The
The first
trines?
aspect, it will actually be the trine to Neptune and the opposition to
Hmm.
Pluto happen on the same day
Oh
on
yeah,
July.
true. They do. They do actually happen on the same day. So maybe let's talk about this. And I think we can also incorporate a bit of like Saturn as well in the trine, because it's like
Mm,
part of a larger cycle. So these I think are the main like focals of like this is how we're getting introduced to Jupiter and Leo. And yeah, that Pluto opposition, it definitely is greeted. Yeah, I'm just like again, the image that comes to my mind is just like this person, this like bright person that comes into a room, but like the room is just full of darkness. And they're like,
yeah,
oh, I walked into the wrong party.
yeah, no, I feel that, and I think perhaps that's even added to the Neptune in Aries as well, because Neptune is confused, got the wrong
Yeah.
invitation, maybe. I think there's an element there of I was looking back down at the notes.
Well, certainly there is an element, a bit of confusion and
Yeah.
yeah, and just maybe wondering, huh, did I get the right invitation? Did I enter the the right party?
Yeah. And I think I wonder if sort of with Neptune's propensity to sort of idealize and daydream, and the sort of too good to be true narratives that can come up with Neptune, um, alongside Jupiter's optimism, could there be, although it's a trine, so it hopefully shouldn't be like too, but yeah, the Pluto element. Yeah, okay. So could we be getting over optimistic, in a kind of delusional way? Because I think Jupiter as well can be a bit too, could it get unrealistic in its
Hmm.
hopes, with that aspect to Neptune, which will also be sextile to Pluto? If you think about it, they're all
Yeah.
there's a conversation happening between the three of them,
Hmm.
which though has its harmonious elements, the opposition is just kind of unignorable, really.
Yeah, yeah, agree. It's almost as if whatever is coming up where we would like to go and express ourselves and like have these ideal versions of yeah, I don't know, the reality we want to manifest, let's just put it that way, is immediately being greeted by, okay, but what are your actual motivations for doing this? Like what are your actual deeper motivations for wanting that and doing this? Yeah, that is going to be super prevalent. Do you have any more
Yeah.
thoughts on that, like on the opposition?
I mean, I always say when it comes to tense aspects from Pluto is that everyone needs to get really honest about the motivations, because no one is always doing the best thing. Most people are trying to, but like we've all had moments where we've tried to sort of dictate a situation in some way or tried to have some power. And it doesn't mean we're big manipulators. It just means we're human, and we've just got to be really honest with ourselves about that. when it comes to Pluto, because we've all been the receiver and the probably the giver of accidental like Plutonian intent. And I mean that in the lightest possible sense the vast majority of the time.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think there's always some radical honesty. But again, because it's an opposition, a lot of this could come from other people. You know, sometimes it does just come from the outside, and yeah, it's hard to anticipate how that's going to go sometimes.
I agree, especially if like Neptune is also like
Yeah,
chiming
exactly.
in. Yeah, it almost just feels like there's a bit of a weird, like layered quality to what is like being brought up. Pluto sometimes has this interesting quality of making smaller things bigger than they are, or
Yeah,
bigger things smaller than they are. I think with Jupiter, it's probably the first one. So I can definitely see there also being like this inner and collective surge of like inflated narratives. This will obviously depend on which house this is happening for you inside, but just like an inflated narrative of what is happening, like aggrandizing even your fears, right? Like that is absolutely possible with Pluto, especially Pluto in Aquarius. Like I can totally see collectively, these fears around we're gonna, yeah, like AI and tech and everything, and we're gonna lose our own creativity and our own selves with all of this. Like that is 100% gonna be a conversation around that opposition, and it can, yeah, I feel like it can or almost has like this quality of just yeah being too big. Like Jupiter can just like expand the sun like in a too big of a way. And obviously on a personal level, it can be your own narratives around whatever you have. Like it will depend on the house topics this is happening in. Yeah.
yeah, totally. I had a thought
Okay.
in my brain.
Well, if it comes up, let us know.
Well, oh yeah, I was just thinking it was basically just an elaboration on what I was saying because of the Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto conversation. I think just like assessing what we call good intentions, because
Mhm.
sometimes we can have good intentions, but there still might be a not a selfish, but like a self motivated undertone as well as, and that how those things can coexist
Oh
in
yeah.
terms in terms of so many situations where it's like I genuinely care about the situation, but I'm also aware of how am I swinging this so it benefits me as well as you know, kind of thing. I feel
Mm,
like because we can often have both self-interest and good intentions at the same time, and those getting really honest about what ratios those are at any given time
yeah, and I also think that doing some things out of self-interest also isn't bad,
is literally
just absolutely not. I think yeah, like I think a lot of my creative processes were, yeah, almost kind of selfish. And yet at the same time, they were also for the collective because I was like I need to express myself for my own healing, like legit. Otherwise, I'll just like crumble. And if it
yeah,
helps the collective, amazing. And I think that's just generally the conversation between the Leo and Aquarius axis, which will be pretty prominent over the summer and also going into next year in general. So
totally.
let's maybe talk a bit more about the Jupiter to Saturn trine. We already
Mhm.
mentioned it a bit before, right? I think it's definitely here to contain a few more things or make us really rethink where, again, these narratives are coming from. It's also like this when Jupiter and Saturn come together, this is also part of like a larger cycle, really. Not that we have to go all the way back, but like the conjunction moment of them coming together was end of 2020, in case you guys remember this, when both of them came together at like the very, what, like 0 degrees was it of Aquarius? Yeah.
So yeah, somewhere around there.
Yes. And like last year and a bit of this year, we had like the square. And now we're basically going into trine territory, which is actually good. That means they're like working together more than they are creating tension in our lives. But it's part of the larger story, is what I'm trying to say. And again, it's going to be happening when Jupiter is in Leo. So it's the opposite sign of where the conjunction moment came, like where the story was born again. So even for like the bigger cycle collectively and personally, that's going to be like a very important moment for that like birthing place. So like whatever happened in your life around like end of 2020 and we know what globally was going on, like that's gonna be well, not the halfway mark point, but maybe like the one third point of this, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I'm just trying to remember myself. Okay, so that the trine to Saturn happens at the 31st of August. So it's sort of that's eclipse season territory, if I remember rightly as well.
It is, yeah. Like August is eclipse season territory in general, yeah.
Yeah, like it's going to be a very heightened summer for so many reasons. So I actually really like this trine to Saturn because I mean I'm all for Saturn at the best of times. I quite like Saturn. I think he's absolutely necessary. And any grounding we can kind of hone in on at this time will be worth paying attention to.
Agreed. And do you have any more thoughts on like maybe from an archetypal perspective, how these might be coming in or playing out in the collective? Completely fine if not, but just
Yeah,
wondering.
yeah. I mean, I have had the thought that because Leo is kind of the child, the inner child archetype. I keep just coming back to that. That's where my brain seems to be like kind of focusing a lot of it on. And Aries is kind of like the infant. It's the first. I'm not out here saying Aries placements are all infantile. That's not what I mean at all. Like, just archetypally, like the Aries is that like it's that first moment in the world, right? And so I wonder if those sort of like versions of our inner children. They're kind of two different versions of our inner children, almost like a kind of the Aries being more of a primal initial needs sort of urgency, and then the Leo being the more playful creativity side of childhood and stuff. And I wonder if there'll be a kind of unifying of those kind of childhood narratives and how you got from one stage to the other, or I don't really know. I see it as kind of like grounded but playful, if that makes sense, like because Saturn in Aries is obviously serious because it's Saturn, but I just wonder if it will kind of, I don't quite have the words to try and illustrate what I'm trying to say.
I think, well, what is coming to my mind right now when you've spoken about this, I think, because Saturn is about like restrictions, and them coming together in this trine moment, I'm wondering if like a lot of these like childhood stories where people were unable to like fully express themselves or they felt hindered might like loosen its shackles a bit, and there might be a new creative way of finding like almost solace where it's like, oh, actually I can do that now, and like I can kind of heal my inner child in that way. That would
Almost giving
certainly be,
ourselves permission, then kind of being
yeah.
our own parental guide to be like, right, let's heal this, let's do this thing that you felt you couldn't do when you were
Mhm.
younger, or whatever it is.
Yeah, or these narratives of like, oh, I'm too old or I'm too young or whatever. I think that is definitely
Get rid of
gonna
that.
absolutely get rid of that. Yes, okay. This actually leads beautifully, I think, into the Jupiter Sun Cazimi moment, which
Mhm.
Cazimi, by the way, if you don't know, is another word for conjunction. It's specifically the word for conjunction when it's the sun coming together with another planet, because when a planet comes together with the sun, it's like a reset moment. Even more so because the sun, when a planet is in the it's like the Kazimi means in the heart of, and so when a planet conjoins the sun, it's in the heart of the sun, and Jupiter almost kind of takes the throne of the sun for a bit here, which is curious, right? Because the sun is the domicile of Leo.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's happening on the 29th of July, so it's not long after the opposition to Pluto. In fact, that'll probably still be in orb, I imagine. Um, oh, interesting.
Yeah, most of these are happening in July, like pretty much beginning of the transit, because a lot of the outer planets, especially, like they newly ingressed, so they are at the beginning degrees. So this is kind of why this is happening. So, what are your thoughts on that Jupiter Sun Cazimi moment?
Ooh, I haven't looked yet at what other aspects it's making, but Jupiter Cazimi. I'm
Well,
rather
it's a
annoyingly drawing a blank, and I don't really know why.
that's okay. Well, it's a reset point essentially for the planet.
Yeah,
And in this way, the sometimes some planets are faster than the sun. In this case, the sun is faster than Jupiter. It moves at a faster rate. So
yeah,
the sun is like taking over Jupiter. Regardless, Jupiter is going to briefly take the throne of the sun and be at the heart of the sun, um, which is beautiful considering it's in the sign of Leo, which is all about the sun and the heart. So I think on a healing level, there is extremely a lot, almost overwhelming potential for some sincere heart healing, which I think, well, this world really suffers from, right? I mean, how many of us have been built walls consciously or unconsciously around hurt? You know, the heart is such a sensitive organ, and the heart for me is actually a very discerning organ. And it's oftentimes when I come back to like the true essence, well, that is actually the heart. I'm like, I come back to the true essence. Like, what is the actual, genuine, true heart of my desire? Like, not all the other things filled with these trauma narratives, which are completely real. But there is always when you like really go deep and you have these moments where you're like, oh, that is like coming from, like, that is my heart communicating to me and telling me something. And when I follow that, I've never done anything wrong in my life by completely following that inner flame, that inner guiding flame. And I think
yeah.
that for me is a lot of that Jupiter Sun Cazimi moment.
Perhaps it will have a lot to do with expressing with integrity then,
Hmm.
perhaps from our, because I think that ties into our own heart space, and it's again, it comes back to the sort of authenticity around the self as well.
So let's talk a bit more about Jupiter, Mars, and the South Node all being together in Leo. That's going to be a bit more later on this year, and it's also going to be, well, significant for Mars in the regard because Mars is already going to be like pre-shadow period during that time when this is happening because this is happening next year, but Mars is going to go retrograde next year and it's going to go retrograde between Virgo and Leo. But the conjunction is going to happen at like 23, 24 degrees, I think, if I remember correctly, something around that, of Leo. And it's going to be with all three of them. And I'm like, that is also once again like super potent to drive energy. And then the South Node is kind of just like, shoot, not so fast, my dear ones.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's going to be um, probably, well, as you say, it kind of shrinks it, but at the same time, I think it zones in on things a little
Mhm.
bit. I think anger from the past, anger potentially from childhood, but just anger that we hadn't processed, I think is going to be felt in a new way and want expressing in a new way. And probably I think it's going to be, hang on, I actually had something written down about that. Um, I think because the words aren't good.
We're recording this before Mercury is stationing retrograde, by the
I
way.
know, and with with my own Neptune situation. Um, I
Well, for
think
me, okay, sorry.
no, it's all good. I mean, the analogy I came up with the other day is like when when a child falls over and you go up to them and check they're okay, you ask, where does it hurt?
Hmm.
uh, yeah, I've heard that a lot. I've said that to my children a lot, and I think this is going to be a time where we're all asking ourselves, asking our inner children, where does it hurt? Like, where were we? And especially with Mars, like, did we
Mm.
receive a certain amount of anger in our youths, or did we just have to repress a certain amount of assertion and expression and stuff? And so I think will be a big question we should all be asking ourselves during this summer. No, it's the winter that this is happening, isn't it? During that winter
It's a bit
will be,
later on.
yeah, it's sort of November, I think. Will
Oh, it
be,
is, yeah. It's around my birthday, actually.
oh,
It's in my solar return chart. Uh,
oh
I'm just
boy.
remembering.
Well, then you need to ask yourself, where does it hurt?
Uh, Yes. No, that's such a good point. I think, yeah, Jupiter and Mars together, I'm just like, ooh, that's a lot of like harsh beliefs. And I'm also thinking of, for some reason, Marsha Linehan, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right now, but like the creator of nonviolent communication. And when he talks about these things, he's actually oftentimes bringing up the point that it starts within. Like, how are we talking to ourselves on a day-to-day basis? Like, how violent are you with your own thoughts and beliefs? Because as soon as you wake up, you view your world through your beliefs, right? And like this whole quote of like, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And I think that is like a very big turning point for these narratives that we have and like maybe seeing them more clearly. And
Mhm.
yeah, also the potential of obviously switching and letting go of them. Like that's what the South Node is doing. It's like helping us to let go of things that we don't need anymore. We seeing it now with the South Node being in Virgo. At least I noticed that in my life a lot, um, is that I was like, I really want to let go of these like perfectionistic tendencies and like holding things. And I was with the last like eclipse pair season, which was beginning of this year. I was like, screw all these self-help books. Like, I actually want to read stories. Like, I want to go in the Pisces realm of fantasy.
Yeah.
So that is, yeah, we're doing something similar right now, as well with this. But it's a very interesting combination. I'm like so curious how that will play out when it actually arrives.
Yeah, no, me too. And I think it's really interesting actually thinking about how we've got the North Node in Pisces now, which obviously Pisces is very creative and like tapped into sort of so many other things that it makes beautiful art, right? And then we're going to move. We've sort of wanted to move towards that, right, towards that North Node, and we've been curious, more escapism in terms of the people are reading more fantasy, like that has been there's been a big boom in that.
Yeah.
And then for the South Node, then to move into Leo, I feel like then they're taking that interesting creativity one step further, and like it's going to get messier. We've let go of the perfectionism, the Virgo South Node perfectionism, and creativity is going to get messier, but like in a good way. In the way that people are going to care less and make things just for fun rather
Mm,
than rather than to impress anyone. That would be my hope anyway.
agreed. Yeah. Like, I would honestly be more worried if the North Node was hanging out in Leo and conjoining all of them than the South Node. Like I'm kind of glad that it's actually the South Node.
Yeah.
Um yes, and we didn't put this on here, but I'm just briefly going to mention it because this is also kind of happening in August. We have eclipse season, right? And this is we already had like the Aquarius eclipse beginning of this year. This summer we're getting a total solar eclipse in the sign of Leo. And that one I think is going to be also like a big moment of maybe getting a bit of a glimpse into this, which is then going to continue the story, right? Because we're gonna, then again, beginning of next year, this is going to continue with the nodes, with the eclipses and the nodes happening in, yeah, Leo and Aquarius.
Mm.
Do you have any more thoughts? Otherwise, I feel like we can talk about like that Jupiter-Uranus sextile.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so Jupiter Uranus sextile. We have
Hmm.
Jupiter Uranus sextile, we have Jupiter Chiron square, and we have the Jupiter, well, retrograde period, which, okay, let me actually just say something about the retrograde period in and of itself, because Jupiter is a planet that stations retrograde every year, so it's not in that case significant as like, maybe a Venus or a Mars retrograde, which doesn't happen every year. Um, and Jupiter is retrograde every year for good, like what, almost half a year, I would say like 5 months
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the stationing points are usually the big ones, I would say. Like when the day and like if give and take 3 days before and after when Jupiter is actually going retrograde and stationing direct, like that's gonna be these big revelatory moments. The same as we had with Cancer, where the story was I mean, I was always bringing up the story of like this metaphorical birthing process that we were all undergoing. And I think with Leo, it's going to be more like this process of, yeah, establishing a sense of self-expression that feels liberating to you. And I think that's going to be maybe more inwardly focused during the retrograde. And
Hmm.
then once it comes out again and like Jupiter also exits post shadow period, then it's going to be like, oh yeah, this is actually what I want to express through me. So that's just what I have to say on the retrograde itself. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, just that I agree. I very much agree.
Okay, and then let's just also briefly skim over Jupiter Uranus sextile and Jupiter Chiron square.
Okie dokie. Well, I think the Chiron square will probably echo similar things that we were talking about with the Saturn trine, interestingly, just because it's the same signs that are being, oh no, it's not, it's Taurus. Ignore me. The second the second trine, no, the first trine is because they will have retrograded, it'll have retrograded back. Um I
Yeah,
think my
so
brain,
it's actually an interesting um how should I say, like narrative shift that is happening if they are
yeah,
basically squaring and then briefly trining together. And I
I
think,
think
yeah, sorry, what do you want to say?
I was just going to say possibly it probably links those narratives, right? It's going to kind of kick off with the square to Chiron and Taurus, which is obviously going to kick off conversations between perhaps, material things, or I mean, that's again only one way of looking at it. Also, self worth as well, how we feel about ourselves, which ties in very nicely to the Leo self expression of it all. Confidence, I think, will be a big part of that. And then moving back, when Chiron retrogrades back into Aries, and then there'll be a conversation. So I think those two narratives between Aries and Taurus will be quite inextricably linked together
Mm,
in terms of everything we learned from Chiron and Aries, about our self assertion and how we show up in that way, and how that's then informed our self-worth, and then how we're bringing that into our creative expression, our self-expression. Like, I think all of those things are going to be woven together as one story, or that you almost can't take them as like an isolated thing.
yeah, full on agree. And I think that also beautifully ties into like that Uranus sextile where it's yeah, it's like questioning your narratives, really, truly.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's definitely what Uranus and Jupiter do together, especially if they're in a sextile relationships, because that's a bit more a supportive one. So it's trying to like interlink things together. I
Yeah.
think I think we actually have like a very good like when I look at this, I'm like, okay, there are a few harsh transits, but there are equally also a lot of transits that are like nice, so to say. But again, I also don't want to definitely, I think both of us are very adamant about the fact that good and bad is are words that are very judgy, and things might be pleasant in the moment, might be unpleasant in the moment, but we never really know if they are good or bad in the long run. Like even things that might be coming up on the Jupiter-Pluto opposition certainly might be icky and unpleasant in the moment, but I'm pretty sure by the end of this, you're gonna be like so grateful that Pluto brought things up to the surface for you to look at them, because through that, you probably can express yourself a lot better, I would say.
There's no motion without tension. Like, nothing changes if we aren't sort of, something isn't stirred. So yeah, I think terms like good, bad, and sort of things that are sort of too definitive and too rigid, almost, like so much more nuanced. Also, not even all trines feel harmonious in the moment. I think that's something that also requires more nuance. Like, soft aspects tend to be a little bit easier, but that doesn't always mean that they will be. It's sort of, there's so much endless
Mm,
nuance to it. And again, as you say, you often don't fully comprehend what it's offering to your overall story until a little bit after the fact, when you've had time to kind of process whatever it is that comes up in any given moment.
yes, agreed. So, do you have anything more to add to the transit timeline per se?
Mm, I don't think so. I think, because the two trines to Chiron happen actually quite close together because of when the retrograde
Mm, mm.
ends. It's the only thing that I'm kind of like, interesting that those are happening they're a month apart. So the first one's on the 2nd of December, and then the next one's the 3rd of January. Um, and so I just think that is quite a nice round off and a note to start the next year on. And it kind of, I wonder if the process of what happens there is actually going to be quite fast towards the beginning of next year.
Yeah. In the midst
Maybe.
of winter, there was within me an unstoppable summer. That's what comes to my mind. Um,
That's
Okay, everyone, we are back. We're going to talk about the horoscopes right now, all the 12 signs. I will say though, before you watch your horoscope, important notice, watch for your rising sign first, because if you watch for your rising sign, this is exactly going to align the houses based on your rising sign. And this is where we derive the topics from. This is pretty much what all the horoscopes do. They just don't tell you this most of the time. But if you don't have the luxury of knowing your rising sign, which is completely fine and completely valid, not everybody has access to their exact birth times. It is completely okay to also watch for your sun sign. But I do always recommend watching for the rising sign first for that matter. So if you do know it, do watch for that one first and then go to your sun sign or your moon sign, right? Whatever fits up your alley. If you feel like this is talking to you and this is giving you valid information, then watch for all the signs you want. Great. Do you want to say anything more to that, or should we start with the horoscopes?
no, just that's exactly what I would say. Rising
Great.
ideally, but not necessary.
Exactly. So let's start with Aries, suns and risings first. Jupiter will be entering your fifth house. The fifth house for me is the house that I often refer to as the joie de vivre. So the house of the joy of life, and kind of like everything that is not necessity, like not necessary for our survival, but everything that makes living so much more beautiful. And I really like Jupiter being there for you because first of all, it's in a trine relationship to your sign, so it's helping each other out, and I think it's also balancing out that Neptune and Saturn that you have going on in your first house, and it's a good relationship for them together. And I think Jupiter in the fifth house is gonna I mean, for you specifically, we were talking before about like inner child work. I'm like, that is inner child work galore, Jupiter being in the fifth house. What do you think, Elfie?
I think absolutely that. I think because it is the house of the inner child, whilst also being, it's quite a flirty house,
It
as
is.
well. It can be a romance house, it can be a creativity house. It's all of those things. And so I think Jupiter moving through this house can be super fun if we don't overdo it, Another thing Jupiter has a propensity to do. And I think there'll be a lot of, if you've been experiencing any creative blocks, particularly with the stuff in the first house, you might have been tired recently. I think this will help you feel a bit more alive and sort of unblock anything that might have been keeping you a bit creatively or expressively stuck.
Yeah, full on agree. I think it's definitely finding like a way back to you. You know, what you share in common with Leo is the fact that the sun does very well in both of your signs. Like
Mhm.
you have the exalted sign in a sun in your sign. The sun does extremely well in the sign of Aries, and then in Leo, it's in its domicile. And so, for that matter, like Jupiter just hanging out there and like that fusion of the first and the fifth house axis, I think is like such a permission slip to like fully own who you are, which I know that you like you guys like to do anyways. But I think with Saturn and Neptune here, I think things have kind of maybe been a bit stifled and confusing, and you might have gone into the realm of like, who am I even right now? Like I thought I knew who I was, but I don't even really know who I am anymore. And then Jupiter, I think, is chiming in and like kind of pushing you into the direction of just giving yourself permission to express yourself, even if you haven't yet figured it out, where this is leading. Like, even if you don't fully know yet where this should go, this project should head, but just for the sake of the pleasure of self-expression and of creativity and making things nice just because. Like, the fifth house for me is that, when we cook food and then we eat it. Like you can do that. Like we need to do that to survive, right? But the fifth house is decorating the food, making it look palatable. Like you don't need that to survive, but it makes eating the dish like so much more delicious. And Jupiter is kind of, I feel like, inviting you to just be a little bit extra, not necessarily with food, but just how you're expressing yourself. Like, if you want to put that flower in your head, like do that. If you want to wear that shirt that you think is a bit too over the top, like maybe just do that and go outside and see how, yeah, how that feels, how that like shifts your identity.
Yeah, yeah. And might seem a little random, but I actually wonder if like Aries risings will be hosting some really interestingly themed parties at this time. Do you know what I mean? Like really, really unique party themes, I think could come up for Aries risings. Like if you're someone that likes to host, I just wonder what that will look like for those people. I think that could be a really fun way to like play with that expressiveness, like socially in groups with friends. I think that's such a like fifth household activity.
Yes, and I also, well, we're not adding too much of the other transits here, but I do want to briefly just talk about like that Mars Jupiter
Mm.
conjunction with like the South Node, just because Mars is your ruler. So that one is going to be like extremely important for y'all. That is going to happen more towards the end of the year, like November, December. And then there's going to be a whole Mars retrograde between like Virgo and Leo as well. And so I think that is going to really like fuse those houses. And especially because, well, in your case, the Virgo house is the sixth house. So it's going to fuse these topics together of like, okay, and how can I make that work in my day-to-day life? How can I feel more free and liberated in my day-to-day life and feel like I can also find my expression through that? Like that's just kind of what's coming up through my mind right now on a very intuitive level. I'm wondering if is there anything else for you that's coming up?
I would say that that would be just everything you were saying would be really good for physical vitality. The sort of the sixth and the fifth house together to me says like living my life and incorporating these fun fifth house things into your day to day. And that doesn't mean partying all the time, but just making your like bridging the gap between those two spheres of life and bringing that fun and expressiveness as a means of well-being almost.
Yeah, yeah. And definitely, yeah, we talked about a lot of the good things now. I think obviously the more negative sides of this transit or like the cautionary tale of having Jupiter in the fifth house in a very strong trine relationships to a first is that things can go overboard and you can be like, oh, I'm gonna explore my pleasure. And then it's just like too much and too overwhelming. And you set your metaphorical bonfire, but then it just kind of like explodes and grows. And all of a sudden you're overwhelmed and you're like, I don't even know what to do with all that fire anymore. And so
Yeah.
that can kind of be, well, yeah, the more like negative expression of this, or just like the cautionary tale I have with this definitely be sure to also go and ground yourself enough and make sure to be hydrated, to also be, nearby water. That's like how we can balance the elements out, like by just like naturally incorporating them as well. And yeah, like that is what coming to my mind.
Yeah, and I think with that said, actually, because of the kind of exuberant party element to the fifth, with the stuff happening in the first house for Aries, I think it might be good to caution over drinking specifically as well, because I think hangovers will just feel so much worse. I think that will be harder on the body with Neptune and Saturn being where it is as well.
Oh yeah, full and agree. And there's also, well, that's just kind of coming up for me right now. It might obviously not be relevant for everyone, but because the fifth house also has to do with like our sexuality and self-expression, which is like a large part of that, I wouldn't be surprised if some of you maybe find a new way or access to these parts, or maybe you start finding acceptance to because a pack of lions is a pride, there's a reason why all of that is happening. Maybe some of you find out like, oh, actually, I was always bi. Or like, actually, I was gay and I never felt like I could safely express that self. And now I want to do that. Like now I finally feel ready and comfortable to actually do that and be in my own skin. I can certainly see that being part of some people's stories as well.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. I see that.
Yes. Any other thoughts on Aries, Suns, and Rising with Jupiter in the fifth?
I mean, for a few, it could literally pertain to children or something to do with that, pregnancy related things, but that's not going to be everyone. So I don't know if that's even really worth weaving in. But
Oh, I do think it's worth weaving in.
yeah, no, it can, well, it can be a time then for some people where you could fall pregnant. So that's worth, worth being aware of and taking precautions.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, again, the cautionary tale with Jupiter in the fifth is always like, well, use protection, right? Because you don't want any unexpected pregnancies. Well, hopefully you don't. Hopefully you don't. But I think that's maybe going to be the most prevalent once we have that, Uranus sextile across your third and fifth house happening. I'm like, that's a day. If you're more of a party animal, like be extra cautious because that is definitely a day where I'm like, ooh, unexpected pregnancies might be high. So if you're going out and having fun, make sure to use protection. Unless you want children, then please be my guest. That is a perfect day for that.
Appropriate for your situation, basically.
100%. Yeah. So I guess that is what we have for Aries. Should we go on to Taurus next?
Sounds good to me.
Great. Well, then, Taurus, suns and risings. Hello, hello. Welcome to your Jupiter and Leo horoscope. Jupiter in Leo is going to be in your fourth house, which is an angular house. So, what that means, it is usually evoking and bringing up topics that are quite prominent in our lives or that feel more thematic heavy. The fourth house talks about our family and our home, but also like our ancestry and where we come from. And the home for me in the fourth house is not just a physical home. It also talks about our foundation and our base, the body, the home that we inhabit, that our soul inhabits, which I think is also important for Jupiter and Leo because Jupiter often talks about these topics that are sometimes a bit more otherworldly and humanly, and Jupiter talks about our belief systems. So, what is the foundation, you are waking up to every day, aka your belief systems? How is that you're shaping your world, your home, the soul, sorry, the body your soul inhabits? That is the initial thoughts that are coming to my mind with this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it can be quite a emotionally
Tense time.
I was going to say heavy, but heavy's not the word, but there's a lot of emotions in it, but it's not it
Mm,
in the kind of sort of heaviest way. But that, I think a lot of feeling can come up in relation to, as you say, like family things, home. It could also be physical, home related things. Like things could happen
yeah.
where you live. Some people might literally put extensions on their homes or move in with more people. Like there could be more people living with you in your home as well. That could be a thing, which could be through means of children or like friends crashing on your couch. It could be
Yeah.
through so many things. In fact, with Leo, actually, that might be one of those things. Um, it can be so many things. You might also want to like playfully redecorate. Like if your house has otherwise not been very playful, perhaps some people will be kind of giving the house a bit of a spruce with like a new vibe that they've not in a big makeover way, but just like, oh, just gonna tweak the color scheme there a little bit, adding like a little bit there. I wonder if that'll show up for some people.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm just like imagining some Taurus rising being like, I'm gonna paint all my walls
Oh,
orange.
I don't think it'll be that drastic. I mean in like kind of just like small ways.
Yeah, true. Uranus is not in your first house anymore, so that's a completely valid point. Um, but I agree. Yes, I think. Well, what was coming to my mind before? There is certainly gonna be. Because again, the fourth house talks about ancestry. I think there's going to be a real, well, revolution isn't like the most Jupiterian word, but just an urge to know like where did I come from? Because this is going to be very important for your own like narrative story arc. And obviously it depends on you as a person. Some people feel very happy from where they came from and the family that they came from. Some have like a very bad relationship to that. And if you are somebody that has a very bad relationship to that, I think that is going to be even more important. And actually, I think there's going to be a lot of medicine and healing involved in this. Maybe even taking a trip to that home country if you have, if you didn't get, you're growing up, if you didn't grow up in that place, like maybe your ancestry is from like a completely different part of the world, and just taking a trip to there might bring a bit more peace within you and feeling like, because Leo is the sign of self-expression and knowing like who you are. And sometimes if your ancestry is from a different part of the world, but you grew up somewhere else, there feels like something is missing. And maybe going there, like connecting to these traditions, connecting to these, yeah, also belief systems, right? It's Jupiter we're talking about, might bring you a lot of peace that you didn't even know you actually needed to, yeah, I don't know, make peace with your childhood or like where you came from, or like maybe where some wounds were happening around that we have Chiron being in your first house right now. There's going to be a square, so I can totally see that as a potential happening for you.
Yeah, I think perhaps even some reconciliations from
Hmm.
people who've been like estranged from. Again, these are very specifics. That's not going to apply to everybody. But I think things like that and resolving family dynamics, perhaps previous tensions will be alleviated. And these can vary in terms of the intensity of the manifestation of that. But yeah, I see a lot of sort of hope within the familial realm for Taurus risings.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you said, I mean, it's the fourth house, not the fifth house. And at the same time, it might not be you that's getting more members, but like your family might. Like maybe your sister gives birth to a child, and so it extends your family, it expands your family. That is 100% also possible there.
Yeah, I had my first child when Jupiter was in my fourth house, so it can happen. I think it can be you, but it
Can
doesn't
be.
necessarily have to be through that. Yeah,
You can be the one expanding your family.
if you want to, no judgment from me.
Exactly. Do you have some further thoughts? Just so, I mean, obviously this is a generalized horoscope, but we can also bring up a few things that are going to be relevant for a few people,
Hmm. Ooh.
if there is something coming up.
No, I don't think I have anything else coming up.
I'm wondering if is there something that is coming up for me? Well, the fourth house, it's for me, I just think for Taurus, having the fourth house, which is like the darkest place, usually when the planets are traversing there, having it like with the brightest sign ever is certainly very interesting, which makes, if you are a private Taurus rising, this might bring up a lot of questions for you around privacy and what you want to share into the public. Or what you want to keep more private, or it might even actually be very difficult to keep things private. Like things might kind of be like coming up in the open, uh, even if you don't like it. Like that's kind of Jupiter as well. It's just like, woo, fire everywhere. So that is just something that kind of intuitively came up to me that this might be, well, maybe an issue, depending on obviously again, how much privacy you like or not. I can also see, like a reclamation of, yes, I'm going to share my story of where I come from. I'm going to share it out to the public, kind of like taking back your power and being like, this is who I am. This is where I come from. This was my healing journey. This is how I found myself. Like that is also, I can also totally see that as well.
Yeah, like a reclamation of the origin story. And well, it's interesting with the Aries things happening in the 12th as well. You're saying
Hmm.
about the things. I'm wondering if maybe some family secrets could be exposed for some people. Um, in
Ooh,
regards to
yeah.
someone's origin story, perhaps that might be getting too specific, but you know, someone in the family's origin story maybe isn't what you thought it was. Perhaps maybe some stuff
Ooh,
that might be coming up.
spicy secrets coming up.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely I can see that. Well, I guess Sagittarius season is going to be interesting if that's also then activating the eighth house. Like, watch out for that season.
Definitely.
There might be an exposing season. Okay. Do we have anything? else for Taurus?
I think that's all from me.
Great. Then let's move on to Gemini suns and Gemini risings. Hello, hello. Welcome to your Jupiter in Leo horoscope. And Jupiter in Leo is going to be in your third house. The third house, for me, one of the most interesting houses, not gonna lie. And one of the houses that I feel like most people like kind of struggle with like placing it somewhere, which
Mm.
yeah, makes sense. It is hard. Like it's not the most tangible house ever because it has a lot to do with commutes and traveling. Like not that long distance travel that we will meet and see in the ninth house, but just like short-term commutes. Like for me, the third house is an extension of the fourth house, which is like your house. And then the third house is your environment around the house. So your neighborhoods, everything that is going on around you, not inside the house, but around you. Um, and also like the daily rituals and things that you do. Well, that usually inside your house, but a lot of people also go out. And for me, like the third house, at least in ancient times, because it was referred to as like the house of the goddess. And sorry, I'm bringing like more third house lore in here, but I think it's gonna make it easier to understand the transit with Jupiter there, because Jupiter is like the planet of also like priestesses, I would say, or priests, or people like being in daily prayer, because it rules over our institutions and stuff. Um, and so in ancient times, the third house was referred to as the house of the goddess because what did most people do that lived in villages on a daily basis? They went up to pray, either in churches or in shrines, but it was like very normal to do that. And that is also how you stayed together with the community, with your neighbors, with your siblings, or your family that is, not your close family, but more distant family, which is also all the third house. And so again, for that reason, I'm wondering if Jupiter might be reconnecting and bring you back to some sort of reclamation of like the daily things that you are doing for yourself that you might have missed out that you didn't even know you really needed. Like it's a very bizarre house because sometimes I see third house transits showing up with people and they're just like, "Oh, I took this route to work. Now I have a car, so I have a completely different way of getting to work." Like it can be as simple as that. And at the
Mm.
same time, it can also be like super mystical. I think the third house is a super mystical house and place, and I love Jupiter being there for you.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I love the third house. The third house is one of my favorites. I am a third house person through and through. Um, and yeah, I love the way you worded what you said about it being an extension of the fourth house because I view it in a really similar way. Like it is your immediate surroundings, your neighborhood. Like I think for Gemini risings for this transit, I wonder if some of them are going to be getting to know their neighbors a lot more. Like, I mean, I've talked about this generally on the internet, but I think for Gemini risings, it's going to be particularly prevalent this idea of reconnecting to the immediate, and again the rituals as well. As I see that there being a honing in on, perhaps even philosophizing more what you're
Mm.
like, figuring out your philosophy around how you want to live your daily life, how you want to connect to the people around you. Having a Leo third house is very social anyway. Gemini risings can be, depending on the rest of the chart as well. Obviously, there's nuance to it. But yeah, I see it as being like a really lovely time in terms of social connections, um, and developing your relationship to that, as well as intellectual pursuits and all the other things, communication, siblings, all of those things are third house. But I really value the neighborhood side of it and the ritual side of it the most. Is kind of my favorite element to the whole thing.
Yeah, full on agree. It's oftentimes when third house transits are active within people, I see people again, yes, exploring their neighborhoods. Like going to that restaurant that is like 2 streets away from you, but you never go to because it's just like so near.
Yeah.
And then also, we haven't talked so much about that component of Jupiter, but it somehow feels right bringing it here. Jupiter being kind of the planet of like luck and abundance, which are like, big Jupiter words that get thrown a lot. But I think that component of like going out to your neighborhood and then meeting the person where you're like, I didn't even know you were in my neighborhood. Like I'm how did we never meet? And it becoming almost like a because Jupiter also talks about teacher figures, and maybe you actually don't even need to look far. Like your village, your neighborhood, your vicinity might have all the people you need. You just have to like open your eyes and see clearly. Or again, take up that yoga class, take up that, like all of that like is much nearer than you probably think. And I think it's did Jane Goodall say something like that? I think it's like think locally, act globally, or was it the other way around? Or was it think globally, act locally? I think it was
I
that
like
way around,
that
actually.
one. That makes that makes more sense.
Guys, Mercury
Oh,
is stationing retrograde. We're like messing up our words. But yeah, I think that that makes sense for me with the third house. Because yeah, of course it is. Yeah, you gotta act locally first. Because sometimes it's so easy, I think, even with social media, which is also, I think, a very third house thing. Yeah, the dark side of that is like don't get caught in like vanity social media BS, dear
mm,
Geminis, and like comparing yourself to who got more and blah blah blah. Like that is definitely don't do that. Um, but what brings you back your power is acting locally, seeing what you can do for the local community. You will immediately feel so much better once you step away from that, again, like overthinking social media world that is overwhelming and over glamorized and be like, what can I do in the real world around me?
yeah, and I think there's going to be like a lot of serendipity possibly for this sign. Like I think serendipity is a great word there, along with the quote that you just gave as well. Are just perfect for Jupiter in the third. Yeah, I think that Gemini risings could come across some really unexpected but really beneficial people during this transit.
Yeah, maybe go like digging for gold or something during that time. No, no, don't immediately do that, but that was just something that came to mind. Do you have anything more to say with siblings? I feel like I always struggle with that part of the third house, but maybe you have some words around that.
um, Similar to what we were saying with Taurus risings, I sort of said that perhaps there'll be family reconciliations. Maybe there's
Mm.
some of that there. Maybe you're just going on holiday with siblings. Maybe some of you are literally doing doing a Jupiter thing with some siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles. You know, it's not just siblings. It's kind of just the relatives that aren't your parents, basically. So I wonder if maybe there'll be some kind of unpacking of the relationships there, particularly with the South Node conjunction. You know, if there has been hostility between siblings, maybe this is getting resolved at this time, or at least unpacked in some way emotionally. Um, but if you've not had tense relationships with siblings, then perhaps you are just having a really good time and having a good set of opportunities to go and explore with them in some way.
Yeah, and again, talking about that expansion component with like family and everything, maybe your siblings might be, yeah, giving birth and expanding your family in that way. Um, yes,
Oh
and you
yeah,
might become a niece or something like that.
yeah. You becoming an aunt or an uncle in some way.
Exactly, totally. And yeah, I definitely see the healing component that of like mending the relationship because what's interesting about siblings is that all of you had the same experience and at the same time it was so different probably, right? With like you had the same family and yet the sometimes you feel like you grew up in completely different households. And so I think going back to these stories, especially if I mean, right, this is only going to be applicable for people that do have siblings. If you don't like, then maybe this is not applicable to you. But essentially, I think it can be really worth it. Like, and I think it can also be really healing when you realize, like, oh, maybe my sister or my brother, like, they just had a completely different experience with upbringing, and like, let me li really listen to that. Let me really witness them in that. Like, you can also be that healing component to them, or obviously vice versa. They can be that to you. So I think I definitely see a lot of potential there. Yeah, yeah. And then one thing that we were talking in the transit timeline was I don't know which transit it was anymore, but I think it was just general Jupiter and Leo is like inflated narratives. That is something that I would definitely be a bit cautious, especially with the third house, because that one has to do with our thinking and
Mm.
our communication. It's yeah, just rethink why you want to express something, maybe like from which place is it actually coming from? Does it need to immediately be expressed? Does everything need to be public? Do all your thoughts need to be shared? These are maybe some questions that I would be thinking about if I were a Gemini.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Anything else that's coming up for you for Gemini?
I don't think so.
Okay. Was it like a check mark? Gemini done. Okay, let's get to Cancer, Suns and Risings. Hello, hello. Welcome to your Jupiter and Leo horoscope. First of all, congratulations, and I guess also condolences that Jupiter isn't in your first house anymore. Uh, although I've seen it for cancers going in both directions. Jupiter in the first always sounds super sexy until you get it, especially Jupiter in exalted signs. And I have actually seen a lot of Cancer risings kind of really also struggling with Jupiter being there. Of yeah, like loads of griefs over past identities that need to be let go of. And at the same time, also, when Jupiter is in the first house, especially in Cancer, there's always, if you already have a sweet tooth, it's very easy to go and like overeat on sugary things or fatty things. And I think a lot of like Cancer risings have, really rethought their relationship to food and everything. And well, now we're entering Jupiter in Leo in your second house. So congrats on that. And the second house, for me, being well, more of an extension of the first house, is because like the first house is your identity. And then for me, the second house is like, okay, what do you do with it? Like, what is your resource from that? We talk about the second house a lot when it comes to money, and that's like definitely there. And yet at the same time, for me, money is not always the only resource that you have because the resources can be your knowledge, it can be your abilities, it can be the connections that you have in your life. So rethinking what does it mean to have resources, I think is going to be an extremely big thing for you, dear Cancer suns and risings.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I mean, I definitely have been aware of like the financial thing. I've already seen as Venus opposed Pluto, I've seen a few Cancer risings change
Mm.
jobs, pay rises like that. That's already kind of been, I've witnessed this in my life already. So I imagine Jupiter will bring that for some people. But as you say, second house is more complex than that. And it's also a sort of a point in the chart that speaks to how we feel about ourselves and
Mhm.
our abilities as much as our sort of material security. It's also our sort of security within ourselves as well. And I agree with the extension of the first house. I'd never really thought about it in those words, but yeah, totally see that.
Yeah, yeah. Self-worth definitely gonna be a big topic. Well, especially just because it's Leo particularly. And yeah, rethinking. Maybe also, if you are somebody that works in the more entrepreneurial realms and you can set your own prices, or even just generally in work, if you have more to say, if you're not just doing a job where, okay, it's a 9 to 5 and and things are fixed. Is like, do you charge for what you think you're worth? Or maybe you do, and that needs to change because you're actually worth a lot more. I think that is definitely a narrative that should be changing with Cancer risings. Because I also just think cancers oftentimes, by default, are concerned with like the other, like
Yeah.
almost like in a Libran way. And right now, like it's about you. Right now, it's about you, dear cancers. And having the audacity to make it about you, like actually having the audacity to make it about you and yeah, do things because you see them as worthy of your time and energy and your resources. Again, where are you putting that?
Mm.
Where do you want to build your garden, so to say? Because it's going to grow, but you have to be mindful of where you plant the seeds.
Yeah, well said. I wonder because of the there's the aspects to the 10th house happening as well. Like
Mm,
some people, it could have to do with. I wonder if there'll be more creative income happening. Maybe some of you are gonna start a creative business or have a side hustle or something to do with your money is either going to be more creative, like how you're bringing that in. Um, it might not have to do with that. I know someone who's just started working with children under Leo second house transits and stuff. So there's stuff there as well. It could also have to do with financial responsibility rather than the income itself, but the concept of like how you are treating that, like what are your spending habits as
mm.
well, like with Leo in the second, how yeah, how you are relating to your resources in that way will be a focus.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the more negative side of this is obviously just like lavish spending.
Yeah, that was my next. Yeah.
Exactly, just going to the casinos and stuff. And just, yeah, not thinking about finances at all, which I mean, if you don't have to, like, kudos to you. That I'm sure that's great. Um, and yet at the same time, I would say do also focus on things. Do you really need the shiny objects? Like,
Mm,
it's good to treat yourself, obviously. But is it like coming from a vanity? It's like are you buying things to impress people you don't even really care about with money you don't have? Like that type of thing. I feel like, yeah, definitely also going a bit into the narrative of, well, the second house isn't social media per se, but I do think it's coming from a place of like, how do I present myself to the world, and how do I kind of come across? It's definitely like first and second house, like combined. And also maybe realizing because the way that people do perceive you, they will judge you for better or for worse and feel like, oh, maybe you know something that you don't actually know. That and you'll probably get a real glimpse into how the world works. And if you address a certain way, you might be getting different job opportunities. And if you talk a certain way, you might also be getting different opportunities around you. And just learning how to play with that, while still, staying authentic to you. I think general for Cancer risings and suns, it's just gonna be like a big journey. Like, how do I do that without like fully losing myself, and who I actually also want to be with this? And yes, also inviting in more creativity around your work and how you want to deal with that with your job.
yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Is there anything else that is coming to your mind?
Hmm. I had a thought and it left. So no. No, accept it.
Sorry, Cancers, you won't hear the thoughts. It wasn't meant to be uttered. Well, for me, I think I don't really have anything else to add to Cancer risings as well. So I'm okay with moving to Leo suns and Leo risings. Hello, hello. The kings and queens are getting the transit happening in their first house, which, yeah, feels great. I don't know, but I'm sure it also feels a bit terrifying having Jupiter in such a strong position in your first house. Obviously, I will say though, we talked about this in the transit timeline because a lot of the outer planets are at the beginning degrees. So if you have Leo rising, I would say like between 1 to 10 degrees of Leo, maybe. This is gonna like all the outer transits are gonna like impact you very much in the beginning. And Jupiter might not do the Jupiter things that you initially expect Jupiter to do, and it might feel more um, unlucky in that manner than it maybe feels like this is actually going somewhere, and you might feel like, what the hell is even happening? My life is kind of falling apart right now. Um, Definitely, a theme maybe coming up during the Jupiter Pluto opposition for you, because that's going to happen across your first and seventh house axis. Pretty heavy axis. Might be coming through other people in close relationships with you. And yeah, I would say generally Jupiter in the first house. It's like how lavishly and audaciously do you want to show up and live in this world?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, as you were saying, it's not always going to, depending on the degree of your rising sign, like it's not always, it might not feel like as optimistic as a lot of the pop astrology would say, like it's your season, time to shine, and it might feel like that, like especially if you have the degrees a bit later, the beginning of the transit might feel a little bit like a rebirth after having Jupiter spend time in the 12th. Like that's probably been really heavy. So I think some of that could be alleviated at least once the tense aspects kind of subside a little bit. But it will vary so much depending on the degree of the person's rising.
Yeah, full on agree. Hmm. Well, I guess I can say some of the similar things, as I said, with Cancer rising, because they're just coming out of that. They're just coming out of Jupiter
Yeah.
spending time in their first house. And yeah, Jupiter in the first house can obviously bring up a lot of emotions, a lot of things that also need clearing. Um, well, people always think of Jupiter as abundance, and that is true. Jupiter is that. But sometimes what Jupiter also does in our lives is that it wants us to bring to these points of these realities that we want to manifest, or these places that we want to go, or these people that we want to become. And it's like, okay, I'll take you there, but we're gonna need to like remove obstacles first. And
Mm.
that might be an icky process. And I think even with especially like the sun, being your ruler, and again, this happening in your first house, there's like, I think more of like a peeling back the layers where you're like, maybe I don't even need to go there. Like, this is who I already am. Like, I need to accept and be like, okay with where I already am because I actually already have so much. Like, realizing that abundance is a feeling in the moment and that you can establish it through daily practice or however you do that. But like, coming back into that energy and really truly realizing that you, dear Leo, is like the most beautiful gift that you can give to this world is to be the most you that you can be, like truly. I think that is going to be a very big journey for you. And I think with also Jupiter and no, not Jupiter, sorry, Saturn and Neptune hanging around in your ninth house, that's gonna like come back to again, what do you actually believe in yourselves? Because I think there's also a lot of like weight being put on Leo risings when they're not the party animal that like the stereotypical like, oh, Leos are bright and shiny and they just love who they are. It's like not every Leo rising or Leo sun feels that way. And sometimes that's like about the journey of finding how this can be like how you can be yourself. Because I have a friend, he's a Leo rising, uh, but he has like a Pisces moon in his eighth house, you know? And so I'm like, yes, he wants to express himself how he truly is, but that is happening behind the scenes. It's not being the actor in the forefront. And that's where he feels good and that's where he feels safe, like he can truly be himself. So do rethink what authenticity means for you because it means something different for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I have a friend that has the same combination, and she does not present as like the typical Leo. And I think it's a big misconception that they're all so extroverted and like openly themselves. Some of them actually just really know how to give attention, and that looks quiet sometimes. Sometimes that looks a lot quieter than the stereotypes would sort of typecast them as. And as you were saying with the aspects with the ninth, I had the thought of the personal philosophy really being honed in on, like with
Mhm.
Jupiter in the first, and the emphasis with the ninth house, I think brings all of that Jupiterian stuff even more into the forefront. And there'll be a real opportunity to explore what your most authentic philosophies are, what your beliefs are, as you said. And yeah, perhaps on a slightly different note, with that South Node Mars conjunction as well, thinking about, as Leo has so much to do with attention, whether it's holding attention or giving attention, I really feel like it's both of those things. I think there'll be a lot of unpacking of how do I either seek or avoid attention,
Mhm.
depending on what type of Leo we're working with here, because and it's worth remembering that it is okay to want some attention. Like
Mhm.
that human. Humans do actually um, want a certain level of attention, and it's just learning what the motivation is behind that, assessing your motivation and knowing how to ask for that in the right doses from the right people, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense. I mean, I think that's a general like Leo Aquarius axis
Yeah.
balance type of question that is 100% going to be relevant during eclipse season. So
Mm-hmm.
during summer, like August is probably going to be that month for you. And yeah, like even though we have the eclipse happening in Pisces, not in Aquarius, but I still think that just for the fact that your South Node first like house eclipse is going to be activated, like even that is just going to be like huge, huge because it's a South Node eclipse. And when the South Node was traveling like through my first house, what actually happened was that, and it was only like a hindsight thing, like I didn't realize it in the moment, but what I started to do during the like span of time, this like 1.5 years approximately, was that I started growing out my natural hair and gradually I started taking out all my piercings and I started to like go just back to the essence of who I am. And I'm wondering if that is maybe something that might also be important for Leos. Obviously, again, it depends on who you are, and I can see it going in both ways with Jupiter being like, oh yeah, I'm actually gonna go super lavish and I'm gonna do this crazy hairstyle and I'm just gonna be who the fuck I am. And that's okay. And on the other side, I can also see people being like, I'm actually so tired of putting on these costumes every day, which are great. Like I love people that put in effort with their clothing. Please stay that way. But sometimes it can also be exhausting, you know, and it's like you're keeping up that image, and it doesn't like fully truly feel like yourself. And like with that South Node going there, I feel like that might also be like a different story for some of you Leo risings, where it's just, it feels like actually I just want to strip bare and naked and kind of go back to the essence of who I am. Like, who am I naked in front of the mirror when nobody's watching, where there's no particular spotlight on me? Who do I want to be? Like, who am I when I'm alone? And is it completely different than who I am when I am in public? Which it can be, like it's okay if it is, but just like consciously role switching, I guess, is where I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, or maybe even it doesn't even necessarily have to be a complete 180, you know, you could also
Yeah.
just like perhaps, I mean, it might be, and that's fine too. There's no right or wrong way for that to go. But I wonder if also some people will want to meet that in the middle, and maybe, as you say, some people might want to take out all their piercings and strip back, but some people might want to go the other way, or some people might go in between and go, maybe I need a little less of this, a little more of that. You know, it could just be like a sort of rebalancing of what's internal, what's external, and how do you want to present that might just be repackaged with a different intention.
Oh yeah. Yep. That is definitely my thoughts as well. Do you have anything else that is coming up for you for Leos?
No, I don't think so.
Great. Then let's go to our dear Virgos.
That's
Virgo
me.
suns. Yeah. Um, so Virgo suns and risings. So this is going to be happening in your 12th house. Jupiter is going to be traveling through your 12th house. Um, a very bright 12th house, which is like generally, I would say, a pretty dark house to usually have transits going through. And I think that is exactly the point that you Virgos are having like such a spotlight into in this house that per se is a more difficult house because the 12th house is the house that makes us grapple with a lot of our like unconscious self-sabotaging beliefs, like where we isolate ourselves. Um, I feel like with Jupiter and Leo there, it's almost kind of gonna be impossible to go through these things that are private in a private manner because it's almost gonna be like an invitation to put it out a bit more into the public and maybe let people in to these processes that you usually keep for yourself and let them know. Like, let people know what you're actually going through. You have a bit of a similar tendency, like Capricorns, where you're kind of like just shut up about what you're going through and carrying, and maybe realizing that, oh, hey, if I just like tell people what I'm going through, I'm actually much more resourced than I think I am, and there's actually a lot more help and care than I think there is in my life. So that's my initial thoughts right now.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think there'll be a lot of like uprooting of what's been unseen, and as you say, like making that more visible. Like if you've been someone not prone to telling people, this might be a good time to try and like process collaboratively with someone. With all the stuff going through, with all the stuff going through the eighth house as well, with the Aries stuff, I feel like that just adds even more depth to the experience, which can sound daunting, but I think is, I like to think of it as an opportunity to kind of look at as much of what's unconscious as we can, and that will hopefully set us up for a better future. But
Hmm.
there's going to be some deep digging for the Virgo risings.
Yeah, I'm also thinking of just like the healing component of feeling truly seen and witnessed in who you are, and
Yeah.
like how beautiful and necessary that is. And sometimes we like push that to the side and we can, I don't know, we just feel like, oh, I need to talk about it. I need to talk about it again. But it's like maybe you just need to be witnessed in this in this thing, and that can be really beautiful. So I mean, when transits are going through 12th house, I usually recommend people taking just extra care of their mental health and considering therapy, a very wide world.
Yeah.
I mean, with Leo, I'm literally like thinking of, do you need some psycho-spiritual drama, where you're enacting things on in like a theatrical level, like that can absolutely be valid and true because then you can like, if or like family constellations, things like that, right? Where maybe things that let's just say happen in your family, right? That were never like brought to the forefront, and it's impossible to do it with your family members because they're unavailable for whatever reason. Um, Acting it out in like such a way can bring these things to the forefront for you to actually, again, feel seen and witnessed without the people that hurt you or did you wrong actually needing to be fully present. I think these are, yeah, like getting a bit more creative about your healing journey is definitely going to be like a big, big, big topic for you.
Yeah, I wonder if art therapy will come up for many of us.
Oh.
Like that could be like just as an example of like a type of therapy that might feel appropriate for the moment. And I love what you said about being witnessed. I think that's going to be really important. I think maybe the depth of Virgo rising's relationships will be
Mm.
not reprioritized, but just as it is a more inward time, we might be being more selective on who is around us, but we will want people around us, as you say, to be witnessed to what could be an uprise of grief, or it might not be quite so dramatic as that, but just things that need to come up that still need processing. I think eighth house and 12th house transits are both just very, very
Mm.
inward times. But we still need human contact, connection is how we get through these things. And I think for Virgo risings, that's going to be a huge part of the next year.
Yeah, because so many things can only be fully released and let go once they have been witnessed. Like
Mm.
sometimes your body is just holding on to these things and narratives because the purpose of it being still here is because it needs to be fully seen and witnessed. And that is, I think, a very important realizations, or well, just something to think about during that transit for Virgos. Because yeah, you tend to solve or try to solve everything on your own, and that's just like not fully possible with all
Mm.
of that. And there's wait, am I calculating this correctly right now? Because Taurus is your ninth house, right? Am I correct? Yes, I'm because Chiron is gonna be there in your ninth house. And so there is a lot of like work around rethinking like what can I kind of like also just let others carry with me.
Mm.
I 100% think that. And yeah, there was something else that I had, but I also kind of like forgot it right now. But it definitely went into the realm of just, yeah, like th these healing therapeutic realms. Sometimes the 12th house, and because it's Jupiter that is there, can also send us into these like healing quests and journeys. So like literally, I want to go abroad on this retreat. around
Mhm.
self-empowerment. I don't know, but just something in the realms of like where I can truly find myself. Like that is kind of usually the reason. Um, yeah, that's kind of what came to my mind.
Yeah, that makes total sense. The only thing that came up for me just then was the fact that Leo rules the father. No, Leo rules the sun, which can be father
Yeah.
figures. So I wonder if some of the complexes that might come up could be parental, not for everybody, but I wonder if there'll be some processing there of sort of parental stuff, not necessarily in the super stressful way, but if you have tense relationships in that regard, then like perhaps that's going to be a big thing for some of us. I feel like I had another
Yeah.
thought again, it's gone, but I'll see if it comes back.
Maybe what came up for me is that also when you were talking about before was just this, well, who can actually meet you there? You kind of
Mm,
have to like open yourself up, and that is vulnerable and it kind of fucking sucks. But that's the only way how you can figure out if the people around you can actually truly meet you in the depth or the intimacy that you desire. And maybe this is also about figuring out like, oh, actually, no, these people cannot fully see me and witness me. And and that's an important realization to have because then you're like, okay, well, what do I do then? Well, who can do that? Who can provide that in my life? And also not being ashamed about like asking for that, asking for more. Like Leo is about like being pretty shamelessly okay with needing validation and needing, yeah, that like not being afraid to ask for that witnessing and that being seen. Hmm.
yeah, no, I think, oh,
Went away.
what was it? There was a specific, no, it's gone. That's so annoying. I had a really specific thing I was excited to say about what you just said, and it's gone.
Was it about, yeah, like the permission to be witnessed or like the asking for help?
I think it was the asking for help. Something along there. It was the thing before the last thing you said.
Oh,
Never
well,
mind.
well, I don't fully remember everything I said as
No,
well. But yes, the audacity to also ask for help.
no, it almost came back to me. You know, when you can see you can see the thought almost. Oh yeah, it was to do with releasing shame.
Hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, with the Mars, it's back. So I wonder if, especially with the Mars South Node conjunction to Jupiter, and we were talking earlier, I think, in when we were talking about the transits, we were talking
Hmm.
um, about maybe repressed anger. I think I mentioned that maybe that could come up, and I think with the 12th house, any of us that have particularly repressed anger, I think some of that could come up and be something that we're processing and learning to channel and knowing how to do that constructively,
Hmm.
using ones constructively, because I think it can be quite common for Virgo risings. Not always, it depends on the chart, but they're not like known for being the most assertive. So
Hmm.
perhaps those of us who have particularly complicated relationships with assertion, with Mars related things, there could be a lot of opportunities to heal that and to get rid of the shame that you might feel about
Hmm.
certain elements of human emotion that you might have tried to subdue and may not be able to for much longer.
Hmm. Yeah, full on agree, full on agree. And I think similar to, well, we were talking about this about like with Leo risings, but finding ways where you can shine your light and be yourself, and it might not be in a public manner. It might be like in a 12th house way where you're fully finding yourself as like, yes, I am the director of the play and I'm doing an amazing job. I'm not the main role, but I've written for the main role. And I feel
Mm,
incredibly confident in that, like finding your way back to like your craft and doing what you actually can be doing good and also kind of just finding like peace with well, obviously it can go both ways here as well, like maybe you want to go and be the main role, then please step into the limelight. That is can also be super freaking healing. Or the other way around, just finding like peace and solace inside yourself of like, yes, I like to be in the background and that's just who I am. And that's amazing.
yeah, yeah, either way, just figuring out where you truly want to be. If you've been secretly wishing you could be on the stage,
Mhm.
maybe give it a go. Go to a drama class or something, or maybe you've actually wanted to, yeah, do the background stuff, as you say. Like, there's a valid role in every corner of a production, right? And they're all equally important. They just do different jobs. Um, and so this could be a great time to just get really honest about where you want to be, and if you've been denying yourself that, to let that go and let yourself explore those opportunities.
Yeah. It's okay to want compliments and applause. It's
Yeah, that's
human.
totally fine. That's human.
Okay, great. Well, nothing's coming up for me anymore with work Virgos.
No, me neither.
Okay, then let's do Libra. You okay with doing Libra? And then we.
Yeah, yeah, we can do
Okay.
Libra.
Okay. Okay, so Libra suns and Libra risings. Hello, hello. Jupiter and Leo will be traveling through your 11th house. What an exciting place for Jupiter to travel through. Well, because for once, the 11th house is the joy of Jupiter. Like Jupiter kind of likes to hang around in the 11th house. And that is because the 11th house, in a similar manner to Jupiter, is about our communities, our wishes, our dreams. 11th house also talks about benefactors. So it's usually the people that well, kind of like bring luck into our lives, or like the vitamin B is often how I like to refer it. So I
Mm.
actually wouldn't be surprised if you do meet some of these people or a person that like helps you out in a way where you get 10 steps closer to your dream job or life or relationship or whatever than you would have been able to do just on your own. And you might really realize the benefits. Well, I don't really have to tell you, you do this, Libra, because you are social creatures, at least by nature. Not every Libra is, but Libra as an archetype is a social archetype. So, yeah, just kind of getting a bit like lucky in that regard of like the people and the groups you hang around with because they're gonna show your future, right? Like the way like when you come together as a group, you can either amplify things or things can like really bring you down. And that's going to be a central question. Are the people that you hang around with actually lifting you up and bringing you further along your path of where you want to go and where you feel like you can shine and be yourself? Or are you hanging around people where it's more about vanity and secretly someone's just waiting to like backstab you and they're secretly gossiping? That's not what you want to have in your life, I would assume. So I think Jupiter is going to make that a bit more clear and obvious.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that assessing who you're spending time with is going to be super important. And earlier with the, I think it was, yeah, Gemini risings, I was saying, where they could meet someone serendipitously through third house.
Yeah.
I think that this actually rings true for when Jupiter's in the 11th house as well. So for Libra risings as well, there could be some serendipitous meetings that help you along with a goal. But yeah, with the South Node there could be some kind of group or connection, or maybe just an aspiration that you're letting go of as well. It could be that you're redirecting and wanting to channel your creative energy or your aspirational energy towards something different.
100%. I think, well, the thing with Libras is they're very socially aware already, for the most part. And when I say socially aware, is that they know how society works, how people work, why they do what they do. The sun is in fall in the sign of Libra, and I think it's for that reason, is because Libra resources itself differently, and because Libra is not focused on the self, Libra is focused on how things interact with each other, how relationship works, how connections work, and that makes you socially extremely freaking intelligent. And if that's something that you're lacking, I certainly think that this transit is gonna like up that a notch, and you're gonna be able to look into that, into like the woodworks and see like who are the people I'm genuinely surrounding myself with. Like it might not just impact, like obviously it will indirectly impact you as well, but like are you spending your time with people that are genuinely an uplifting force in your life where you feel like you're going or you're coming more and more into your essence, or you feel like you're playing along these roles where, you're just dressing up nicely and having these talks for what, you know? Jupiter wants to have a higher purpose for the things it's doing. So you need to find people where there's a higher purpose in your own self-expression. Like it's not going to be enough anymore.
Yeah, no, I think people are going to be, the Libra risings are going to be wanting to find more meaning, I think.
Hmm.
Meaning in social interactions, in anything that they're working towards, really. But I think just social engagements of any kind. There could even be a greater interest in politics as well. I find that can amplify in 11th house transits as well. And I think what we were saying about friendships and who you're spending your time with, I think that's also amplified by the Aries transits happening in the seventh as well. Like close
Mm.
relationships
Yeah.
are going to be under the microscope at this time.
Yes, yes. And then on the more metaphysical level, I think Jupiter is gonna just dare you to dream big and
Mm,
dream even bigger than you think you should be dreaming. And then when you thought about that, go even bigger. Like dare to go beyond what you think is possible because I think a lot more than you think is possible is actually possible. I said that word so many times right now. But that is, yeah, having, the world belongs to the bold and courageous ones. And the first step of that is to even just imagine it, to even just
mm.
imagine that future that might be possible. Like, what if you dare and go there?
Yeah, and again, what we were saying earlier about Leo and attention, both in terms of the give and the take as well. I think for Libra, that's going to be also relevant in terms of
Mm.
what do they want attention for, what are they wanting recognition for, and as well as going the other way, and are they giving other people enough recognition as well? Is that a question we need to be asking ourselves?
Mm. Yes, agree. And also because the 11th house is well, I think social media in and of itself is more like a third house realm, but I think it's relevant in the 11th house because a lot of things are happening on social media, and that's how you're meeting a lot of people. So, in that regard, I would also pack it in there. And it's like, yeah, how are you presenting yourself? How do you want to show up there? Who do you want to be seen by? And it might also help some people rise to more fame if that's what you want. That is totally a possibility. Having the right circles around you that give you the visibility boost that you need, and bam, like you're getting the career positions you never thought you'd imagine. Suddenly you're hanging around people that you never thought you'd be in the same rooms with. Like that's kind of Jupiter being in that 11th house. And it can also sometimes be a bit overwhelming in that regard. Because then you're like, ooh, how do I act? And that's going to be that tricky question, like, do you stay true to yourself or do you like
Mm,
go into a narrative where you think you should be acting a certain way? Because, yeah, authenticity is going to bring you further than any social construct you think you should be following.
yeah, I do. On that note, I do wonder if this is only going to be a specific few people, but I wonder if some people, when Mars and the South Node and Jupiter are all, having that little party in the sky, I wonder, I wonder if a few Libra risings are going to be questioned on their authenticity, if there'll be some
Mm.
adversity from Mars and the South Node. Not saying these people are being inauthentic, but I wonder, if these people do go viral, as you say, because it can have to do with social media, if that expansion happens, could a few people be facing some tension or adversity, or maybe just some stress from that explosion, perhaps?
Oh, yeah, I can totally see that happening as well. Yeah, yeah, there's nothing more specifically that's coming up for me for Libras.
No, me neither. Maybe playful creative groups, maybe joining some interesting creativity groups. But other than that, I think that's all I've got.
Yeah, that's certainly a valid point. We're just somewhere where you feel like, ooh, I can just like fully,
Yeah.
because sometimes, we go out into this society and and we feel like we're wearing all these masks and we put on these costumes and everything. And um, interestingly enough, what happens when I think about theater is like, yes, we're putting on costumes, but we're doing it in an intentional way. And
Yeah.
this can sometimes be extremely healing, where you're like, oh, actually, I can really step into these roles, and that's also like part of me and who I am, and I get to express myself in ways where when I'm wearing my societal construct costume, I can't go there. And that can be extremely liberating. Yeah, similar advice, I guess, like with what do we have before? Yeah, Virgo risings. I was like, which sign did we talk about? From with Virgo risings, where I mean, it's not happening in your 12th house in that regard, but I would say if there is any sort of like therapy that I would be suggesting to you, it's also like constellation work or psychospiritual drama where you get to, yeah, enact these things in a more like playful manner, instead of, yeah, because Leo is known for drama, and I can certainly see also a lot of friendship drama happening there. And but then like in these settings, you can live it out in a way where it doesn't like where the drama still like has its place, but it doesn't, how should I put it now? I'm losing my words. But like it gets its witnessing and it gets its place. And so you can kind of like distance yourself from it and disassociate from it where it's not so personal anymore. And then you can go on about it and then realize like, are these people I really want to hang out with or not? Instead of like fueling the drama and all of that, because I can totally see that happening as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think healing through something playful or finding even social groups, hanging out with friends you can be playful with as well will be really important.
Yes. Okay. Okay, Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. Hello, hello. Welcome to your Jupiter and Leo horoscope. Jupiter and Leo is going to be traveling through your 10th house, a super prominent house with a super prominent sign. So for me, that immediately puts your direction for me into viewpoint in how you want to be seen publicly, where you want to head in a manner. The 10th house for me, the difference of the sixth house, which is also getting activated by trine with like Saturn, Neptune, having to do like the sixth house for me is really like the job that you do and like the work that you kind of need to do. Maybe the work that you need to do to just simply have money to put food on the table. The 10th house, while it has to do with work, for me, the 10th house is more talking about like the career you want to build or the vocation aspect of it. And so for that manner, I think Leo is really inviting you to rethink where do you want to head in life? And what is the legacy even that you want to leave behind? Because once you think of things in terms of that, I think it's going to be much easier to kind of, yeah, like refocus your energy and direct it into a way where you're like, yeah, I'm directing it into something useful, something that even once I pass away, this can still live on in my spirit. I think that's going to be like such a prominent question and exploration for Scorpios during that time. That's some of my initial thoughts.
Yeah, and I think with the 10th house, it's as you were saying, even after you die, right? It's how you're remembered and how how the wider world perceives you more so than like the sixth house is literally physically what your
Yeah.
body is doing from day to day isn't the same as how people will talk about what you're doing, if that makes sense. Like the
Oh
10th
yeah.
house, or like what other people are seeing, and what which is real. It's not to say that their perception is not really to do with what you're doing, but they are just like those houses speak to different things. So I agree with you on that.
Yes, and I mean, first of all, it's an angular house, right? So it's again, it's in square relationship to your first house. And there's also obviously the same with Aries here. Once your chart ruler Mars steps into the picture and we get into that realm, which is going to be more end of this year, November season, your birthday season. Well, if you're a Scorpio sun, at least. Scorpio risings might not be the case, but that is going to be a time where, yeah, like Mars, Jupiter, and that Saturn Leo are going to conjoin together. And that's going to be, I think, an important turning point in, yeah, also realizing where maybe you have been like holding in too much or feeling like, oh, I'm putting in so much effort and being perceived a certain way. I actually kind of just want to be myself and show up as myself. And like, it's actually super liberating to show up fully as myself. Um, yeah, I think it's interesting, the 10th Leo house for Scorpio risings specifically. It's always such a dichotomy for me. because Scorpio by nature is a more introverted sign and a sign that likes to be more mysterious. Not even necessarily because they want to, it's just, they just kind of are, even if they don't want to. Certainly a bit more private. And now you get this super prominent Jupiter transit in this like house that is about like the worldly manners and how you are perceived. And you're not a sign that necessarily likes to be perceived in the first place. But I think that's exactly the medicine that you might be needing right now is grappling with these topics that might not naturally come to you and also realize like, oh, hey, it doesn't have to be so crazy. Being perceived doesn't have to be so crazy. And it actually can even be really healing to be seen as who I truly am. Because a lot of you have great and amazing gifts to offer to the world, and they need to become a lot more visible, which also puts you into the limelight a bit more than you would maybe like to. But it's an invitation. And again, same as when we were talking about with Virgos, is that maybe there's also ways where you can be present and visible, so to say, where you're not the main actor on the stage, where we're not playing the re lead role, but you're in the background and you're fully in your craft. You're authentically doing what you really genuinely like to do. That is also liberation, like seeing yourself in that. Maybe you become a famous private detective. No, I don't know.
Oh, that's so appropriate.
A
Yeah,
famous psychologist.
that's also very appropriate, honestly. Anything to do with kind of like solving something is very Scorpio coded. But yeah, I've always found that, as you say, the dichotomy of like having a Scorpio rising but a Leo 10th house. I've always found that really interesting. I know so many Scorpio risings, and it plays out in so many ways depending on the placements. Obviously, charts are
Mhm.
so nuanced. And yeah, I think a lot of Scorpio risings are going to want to show up. I mean, maybe as they have been before, but there'll be a reckoning with their own motives. Why do you want to be seen or not seen? Again, similar with the Virgo
Mhm.
risings, it's a
Mhm.
similar thing, but just in a different sort of part of life. Um, because some people may want to step back, some people may want to be stepping forward, depending on how it's hitting your chart, what your experience with visibility and your work has been thus far.
Yes. I mean, Jupiter and Leo is going to be about visibility for everyone. But I think for
Yeah.
Scorpio risings, it's going to be like an extra dose of visibility because that 10th house, I mean, not everyone's MC falls into the 10th house, but for a lot of people, it is in the 10th house, and the 10th house in general is also referred to as the midheaven, which can be a bit confusing at times. But it is usually like the brightest part when the planets are traveling through that area of our charts. And so by default, I think you'll be kind of called into that position. And even I was just at the opera recently, and I was watching a ballet with my grandmother. And at the end of the day, the director isn't the one being on stage, but they still come out at the end and are there and receive the applause from the crowd and also from all the ones that were playing along, right? The I'm forgetting the word, the actors or the politicians. I don't know the word actually, the dancers. So I'm wondering if that is maybe like you're kind of trying to find a middle ground of, not negating the fact because it's very human to want to be seen and also again to receive validation, to receive support. But again, it maybe doesn't have to be in the most brightest way. And again, if it is, then also getting really honest about wanting that for yourself and wanting to have a more lead role in your life and like really leaving a legacy for people to like fully remember for many many years to come. Like that is all possible, and it's okay to want that. Like it's Scorpio is a sign of like realness. I think Leo is too. Leo at his highest form is really for me a sign of genuine real sincerity and realizing that a lot of these things are kind of human. Like, hey, it's human to want to leave a mark. It's okay to want that. And so I think for a lot of Scorpios, this will kind of be a bit of a grappling and also permission, I think, to be like, hey, it's okay to want that. It's okay to want to leave a mark, to leave an impression, to be remembered. It's okay if you also want that.
Yeah. And I think with the sixth house sort of stuff going on as well, I wonder, like, there's so much fire in the work houses. Could leadership be something that people, Scorpios, are sort of pondering whether they want it or not? Again, I'm not suggesting the pendulum's going to swing any particular way. But I also think because Mars is the ruler, that big conjunction, the South Node, Mars and Jupiter, is going to be particularly important for Scorpios as well as Aries risings as the chart ruler. So again, could we be dealing with issues of adversity in work, or just wanting to stand up for ourselves more in a public domain, to again in a visibility sense, but it could also be defending something
Hmm.
or acting on behalf of something, some sort of outspokenness or confrontation, not necessarily in an aggressive way, but there could be, I wonder, some need to stand your ground on something
Hmm.
in maybe not the workplace, but in your place in the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, well, I think why people shy away from visibility in the first place, and I can totally relate, is that it also attracts all sorts of people. People can, if you're the light, there can be a lot of moths that are attracted to that flame of yours. And once you're in public, and I'm saying this specifically because Uranus is also traveling through your eighth house. I'm like, information can come to the surface, and I'm just wondering if you might be dealing with things that are outside of your hand. People spreading rumors, misconceptions about you, and you're like, all of a sudden, I'm being perceived and visible in ways that I actually don't like. That's not who I am, and kind of like really feeling what that means of like being a public person, a person in the eye. Again, it doesn't mean that you're going to become like a famous Hollywood actor like that. We're not talking about that type of level, but even just gaining more momentum in your let's just say company, like all of a sudden you're offered a position with higher visibility in that sense where you're just more responsible for more people. And then all of a sudden, some rumors get spread, because like you're accessible from that position from a different place. And that might really be tricky. Like, I think don't underestimate well, I don't think you are underestimating, but just, yeah, what can happen with, or not what can happen, but just things will happen that are outside of your control. And how are you dealing with that?
Mm.
Because you cannot control how people perceive you at the end of the day. But what you can control is how you are showing up. And if you're showing up from a true place, from an authentic place, that is the legacy part. The rest, well, people are gonna talk, people are gonna say things. You can't control that, sadly. That's just the way it is. So how are you gonna deal with your haters, Scorpio? No, I don't know.
I think, though, I'm hoping that from all of that, if that happens for some Scorpio risings, if some kind of tension of that nature comes up, um, like, people, yes, people are going to talk, but if you handle that with integrity and if you are true to your vision, then the right people are going to see that. The
Yeah,
right people are going to see that, and you will get that recognition. Jupiter wants to give you the good thing, and sometimes that comes at a cost, I suppose, which could be the rumors.
agreed. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely there. And well, we were talking about Mars just in Leo, but there's going to be a whole Mars retrograde between
Hmm.
Virgo and Leo, Virgo being the other Mercury ruled house. So it's like connected to the eighth house by default. And I'm just wondering if that's also going to be a grappling of, being a bit more discerning in, well, who do I trust? Who do I share information with? Which, I would say Scorpios, you're already pretty discerning with who you trust your information with. But in case if you aren't, that might come a bit more to the forefront, or you might just realize more. Like it's not even really something I think that you necessarily have to do, but it's just kind of like, oh, the people kind of showing you who they are in general, and then you deciding upon that. Yeah, who do you want to keep in your circles and who do you not want to keep in your circles? Because yeah, um, For a lot of people, well, I can't speak from experience, but what I've heard from a lot of people is that usually when people do get more famous or successful, or these things start, hitting them, which is a very, very viable thing that can happen during Jupiter transiting the 10th house. Um, all of a sudden people are reacting differently, and you kind of seeing people for who they actually are. Like, maybe you think, oh, they're my friends, but then you realize, oh, actually, they just were, I don't know, latching on to me because they thought through me, I would give them a position or something like that. I think these are going to be like very big themes.
Yeah,
Yeah, just because a lot of like through that part, a lot of the upper chart, if you're a Scorpio rising, is going to be activated. So a lot of things are going to be like outside of your control, and they're going to have more to do with the people you spend time with than necessarily like, your private life and all of that, which is like the other zodiac signs. Anyways, that's just what's kind of coming to my mind.
yeah, that makes sense. And I think other people's intentions will be made known, will be made clear, I think, in this time. And it might be uncomfortable, but I think there are going to be opportunities to creatively branch out still. Perhaps Mars isn't famous for its cooperation. However, um, with the falling away, if anyone does need to fall away, that's just one possible manifestation of this. But if certain people do fall away and you don't want them in your creative project or whatever Leo 10th house things are going on right now, the right people will subsequently make themselves known, I think.
Oh yeah, exactly. By being the most you that you can be, you're gonna attract people that are exactly, you're gonna repel the ones that aren't, and you're gonna attract the ones that are. And this is the fastest way that you will get onto the path that you want to go into life. And I think you're also gonna like not fuck around with that so much as you maybe sometimes do, like dilly-dallying. But like the focus is gonna be like really hard on like, I have a purpose, on Jupiter. I have a purpose. I want to go there. This is like my life is too short to hang out with people that are just not like bringing me there. Like I think that's gonna be like very clear. And if you don't yet have that purpose, it's gonna be a time to really, yeah, think about what it is that is your purpose, what you like kind of came here to do. I know purpose is a big, big fucking word. And I do also believe we have many purposes, not just like one purpose, but certainly something that is like bringing you into that direction because you're a Mars ruled sign. And if you don't have something you can exert your energy into, it's so easy to land into the realm of self-destruction. And if you're not destroying yourself, you're usually destroying other people around you, going into bad habits. That's not the place we want to land, okay? That's not the place we want to land. So, like learning how to redirect that energy into something higher and greater than yourself, that's going to be extremely prominent and important to learn that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Any more thoughts? Otherwise,
No, I don't think so.
okay. Yeah, me neither. Let's move on from the best rising sign to the other.
Not your bias.
Let's move on to Sagittarius suns and risings. Hello, hello. Okay, so Jupiter is going to be traveling in your ninth house. For me, the ninth house, even though it's not like the joy of Jupiter is not in the ninth house, but the joy of the sun is in the ninth house. And because Jupiter is in Leo there, I kind of really vibe. I kind of like fuck with that, I want to say. Um, and I think
There's an
it's gonna be, yes. And you're okay. First of all, Sagittarius is, I mean, this is your ruler. This is your chart ruler, especially if you're a Sagittarius rising. So whatever Jupiter is doing is kind of important for you, anyways. And then the ninth house, luckily, is in a trine relationship to your first house. So same with Aries here. You're getting good dips. This is like good energy. This is energy that is directly also infusing into your own self. And the ninth house for me. Well, it's an interesting house in that matter that it also feels a bit non-tangible because
Mm,
it talks about, well, kind of again, these very Jupiterian themes as well here around our beliefs and our viewpoints and how with our beliefs, we create worlds. And obviously, it's also talking about travel, long distance travel. You might be reconsidering where you're living, going traveling even more. No, I don't know, but maybe. If not, I think the ninth house, if it's not about physical travel, it is also about the inner travel, the inner journey, the like meditation practices where we find back to our core self. And I think maybe, I haven't thought about it this way, but it's just coming to my mind right now that I'm sharing this because you Sagittariuses are just kind of known for traveling around a lot. Not saying every Sag is like that, but maybe that is exactly the point. What if instead of, moving places over and over again, it's about actually finding that stable fire core that is within you, that never leaves, that you take with yourself always, because you cannot escape your mind and your body. You can change places all you want. And, I know that not all who wander are lost, but sometimes you are. And you like sometimes you gotta get really honest about like, are you falling into that category where you're kind of just always escaping things instead of focusing on the essence? So,
Mm,
yeah, that's my initial thoughts.
yeah, I get that. Um, I I loved Jupiter transiting my ninth. I think that was so much fun. I had so much fun. Um, I think it can be a really philosophically interesting time. I think it's a
Mm,
great time to learn new things. I was ferociously reading, like ferociously
mm.
devouring, like just new information, learning new things. I think that there's this mind broadening effect that can be really, really fun for this transit. And again, as you say, there will be a trine to the ascendant at some point, which is also really fun. Um, like your worldview in terms of your rising sign and your ninth house sort of elements of life are both just gonna expand in some way. But there could, with the South Node conjunction, I think there could be a bit of a test of faith, not in like a big Saturn way,
Mm.
but in a kind of maybe reckoning with old beliefs, childhood beliefs that maybe don't serve you anymore. Like there could be some discomfort there to be worked through, but whilst alongside hopefully some really joyous, interesting intellectual pursuits, there could also be um, a bit of a face to face between you and past thought patterns or um, don't know, maybe even something that happened on a trip might come up.
Mm.
I'm not quite sure, but I think that there could be either previous experience or a new experience that could shed light on something that needs to be rethought.
Oh, yeah, I can totally see that. For me, the ninth house is the house of quests. Take that
Yeah.
however you will, but it really does feel like that for me. And I'm like just coming off of that. Like Jupiter has been traveling through my ninth house, and I haven't been traveling a lot. So it really doesn't, for me, it really is so much also about these inner quests that we go through and how our worldviews shape our worlds on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis. Because yeah, the way we think about things, that that impacts us greatly. And I think it was like Carl Jung that even said that, and I'm gonna like butcher that quote exactly, but he said something along the lines of this, that one of the most important decisions that eventually you're gonna have to make in life is, do you believe that divinity exists or that it's not? Like, do you have a worldview where everything is divine or where nothing is divine? And depending on that, like, you're going to lead completely different lives. And I'm not here saying that one is wrong and one is right, but it's going to influence you. Like, that's the point of the ninth house. It's not about telling you any of that your worldviews are wrong, but it's just making you aware that, hey, the way you think about things and believe about things and believe in things is shaping your world. And that's the quest to go under. And let's not forget that Leo is a fixed sign. And sometimes these, again, beliefs and patterns, they can be like so fixed and ingrained in our minds. And it's also, again, this yeah, this quest of like maybe tracking back, where does this come from? Like where do my beliefs around my worthiness and like how I can express myself, even like where did it start? Where did that come from? And is it time to maybe rethink? them, perhaps. Obviously, easier said than done. It's not just that easy to change your worldviews. Sometimes it just kind of happens, though. I will say that. I think maybe especially that Sun Jupiter Cazimi moment, because that's like resetting your chart ruler. That might be like a big one for you specifically, where and you don't even really have to do a lot. It's just sometimes we get put into these positions where it's like, okay, the only thing you have to do is like kind of surrender to that process. And then things just like change and there's no like forcing. It's just, it feels like the most natural thing that you could have done is just like change that worldview. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think I have another sort of like thought because it's also a
Mhm.
house of like writing and publishing, and I mean, kind of
Mhm.
the legal system, like other institutions as well.
Yeah.
But I think if you've been trying to publish anything, the trines to Saturn in the fifth potentially could be like a good time to get in touch with someone. I don't know.
Mhm.
You'd have to time it well though, because obviously Jupiter is going to make some like less favorable aspects at various points. So I think it would have to be well timed. But just if any Sagittarius risings are on a publishing journey right now or a journey, um, check the transits, but there could be some favorable times and less favorable times, depending on which end of Jupiter in Leo we're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also brought the topic of studying in education. That is certainly also ninth house thing. And it's
Yeah.
never too late to learn anything. But it might also be a time where you're seriously reconsidering like going back to school, going back to study something that actually like lights up your heart and feels like a spark inside of you. Like that really might be a phenomenal time for that.
Yeah, I do wonder though, because it's the South Node moving through,
Well, yeah.
then could it be that it's that they're still studying, but more of it in a third house way? You can go to sort of evening classes. There's sort of
Yeah.
there's like, excuse me, Minerva. There's like ways of learning things and going sort of to learn new things in groups and study things that aren't like formal university. So that could also be. I mean, it might be university for some people, but I just wonder if for others it could be more of a third house. Like I'm going to go learn pottery in the evenings or join a study group or something on a more sort of local, smaller
Yeah.
scale, because for a lot of people that might actually be more doable logistically as well.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And obviously, I can also see it going the other way. Maybe you
Yeah.
are a student, maybe you are enrolled, and you're like, actually, this is like, I'm just doing this for my parents. Like that, I don't even really want to do that at all. And just realizing I need to kind of drop out. Like, I cannot do this. Like, I cannot wake up every day and go there and study the subjects that literally does not light a joy in my soul. And yeah, I can totally see that happening as well for some Sagittariuses.
Yeah, perhaps someone that went to uni to go do train to be a teacher, just thinking about
Yeah.
like Leo children, ninth house, maybe they pivot and go and study political science instead to go across to the Aquarian part. Maybe there's a complete 180 of what you're studying,
Hmm.
or if you're studying at all, like that's completely, you're allowed to reroute. If you feel the call to reroute, that is so okay.
Yes, yes. And because the ninth house is also the house of, again, teachers,
Hmm.
you might, well, I have two thoughts on that. One is you might be drawn to becoming a teacher yourself and realizing, oh, actually, like I have a lot of knowledge and I feel like very comfortable in teaching this subject right now. Or second opinion on this is, and also because Jupiter has a teaching quality, is you actually finding a mentor that
Yeah.
it can teach you something and get you along in that next step. Maybe working with a coach that can again help you maybe shift this worldviews and get back more to the core of yourself where you feel more comfortable. That is, I think these two options are definitely there as well.
Yeah. No, I think all of these sound very exciting, to be honest. I think Sagittarius risings are really in for like a really interesting bit of lore, and we know that the Sagittarians love the lore. They're in it for they love a good plot. You're going to have some really good plot for the story soon.
Oh yeah, I think with Uranus being the seventh house, there is already enough
Oh
plot
yeah,
happening. And so more to come.
the narrative is strong for you, Sagittarius.
Full on. Okay, I don't have anything more to add to that.
Me neither.
Okay, then let's greet our lovely Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. Jupiter is going to be traveling through our eighth house. Yet again, another sign that is similar to Scorpio, likes to be usually be more private, more self-contained. Well, you're not getting it in the most visible place, like the 10th house with Scorpio risings, but you're getting it in a house that is more dark and deep, and it's shining a light there, probably more than you would like. And well, in that case, actually similar to Virgos, I would say, it is bringing to the forefront all the things that you usually carry on your shoulders, the entanglements you have with others, the things that you're like, for the sake of maintaining peace, I'll just keep it between me and this person and nobody else. And while that's good and admirable, I think at the same time, it can also, leave you in situations that maybe aren't that good for you for longer than might need be. And like, what is the words? I'm losing my words. But just kind of carrying things around, like these entanglements, these things that you feel like you owe people or they owe you for longer than needs be, for longer than needs be. And yeah, it's definitely shining a light. I mean, the eighth house in ancient astrology referred to as the gates of Hades. Wahaha. But in more simpler terms, the eighth house, for me, referred to as the house of other people's resources, other people's money, entanglements we have with them due to legalities or soul contracts, if we want to go that way. Just like usually the bonds we have with people where it feels like karmic. Like for some reason you're just kind of like entangled together and you don't really know why, but you kind of have to go through that with them for better or for worse. That's why the eighth house comes after the seventh house, which is like the repercussions of the marriage that happens in the seventh house. So obviously this can also happen or go in different ways. In one way, I can also see that, you're getting abundance and windfall from maybe a marriage or a contract with somebody else. Some, things working out in your favor. If you're maybe have, or, maybe someone in your family passes away and they actually left you a lot of money, which I don't know the word for that right now.
Inheritance.
Inheritance, yeah, that was the word I was like you get a lot of inheritance, unexpected inheritance, maybe. Um, or what was the second thing that I was thinking about? Or you just like, if you've applied maybe for some, I don't know, benefits from the government, or you're trying to get a loan, this might also be working out and playing out in your favor, where it's easier than other times for you to, yeah, get resources from other people.
Yeah, totally. I think one thing I remember from, oh wait, Minerva, please. This is not very helpful. She's tipping my table. Listen.
Yeah,
Very helpful.
the people don't know, but like my cat is right behind this laptop, so.
There are cats all over the place.
Hmm. Hmm.
We live in a cat world. Yeah, with the eighth house, I think Jupiter moving through it. I mean, this Jupiter transit is so double-sided for everyone. But the eighth house has an interesting duality to it because I found, you know, interest in sex can be increased, which can be
Yeah.
fun. But with the Mars South Node stuff, I think there could be a lot of unpacking of shame. I think sexual shame could come up when that conjunction is really tight. Or I don't know, unpacking past experiences that may have been negative in the past could also come up at this time, which can feel really heavy, but it will
Mm.
ultimately be a release to more freedom of expression of that side of life, perhaps. But yeah, as you say, it's also very much to do with resources, big emotional entanglements, all of that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, maybe also some drama around inheritance stuff.
Yeah. Oh, maybe there's going to be a bit of a dispute.
Yeah, especially because it's well, I mean, it's trining the Saturn, your ruler, and Neptune in the fourth house. So it should technically work out in your favor, but I
Yeah.
can see seriously also see some drama being involved where, things have maybe not been communicated clearly, or I don't know, somebody got more, somebody got less, and it's just like some drama that is happening around, yes, inheritance, in the family line. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I think there could be definitely some tension to be worked out there. But the trines should offer some support, and the trines to Chiron at the end as well. Like there will be trines to
Mm,
Chiron as well.
yes.
So hopefully that will sort of aid some reconciliation if there is a bit of a fallout in that process.
Yeah, yeah, and the good th yeah, I'm glad you also brought up these other things because the eighth house, again, from a more metaphysical level, I would say, deals with things that are outside of our control, which again is also other people's money and resources. But this is the reason why the eighth house for me is also where anxieties live in, where trauma lives in for the most part.
Yeah.
And these experiences that kind of like shaped us, and where, in a very chironic way, I would say, it left a mark on us, and we didn't necessarily get any like real healing. I think sometimes the eighth house experiences are just things that, okay, it happened, and that's just kind of the person that I became of that. And there isn't any like grand gesture at the end of the day because of it. It's just like, what do I do with it now? And
Mm.
yes, sure, there is a healing component to it, but we're also never going to go back to that person that we were before that event happened that might have shattered our life, from that eighth house perspective way. And so I do think like Jupiter, again, literally shining a light on these topics might be, bringing you into the realm of like really maybe facing some of that deeper and darker shit, which I do have full trust and faith that you have the capacity for that. But I do think sometimes you do also kind of avoid it, you know? You're like also more focused on like, oh, just like carrying things. And now it's like, it's time to be witnessed in that, dear Capricorns. It's time to actually be witnessed in, yeah, the heavy loads you're often carrying on your own two shoulders and receiving, big eighth house word, receiving, yeah, the love and light, if I can put it that way, from other people, and realizing how, yeah, how beautiful that can be, and joyous as well. When you get into that other role, when you're not just the one carrying, when you're also the one, yeah, getting the support. Because Jupiter in the eighth house is also about getting the support that you need.
Yeah, totally. And I think Capricorn risings quite often, not always, but quite often have had to grow up a bit fast. They've
Mm,
more maturity has been expected of them, either because of some kind of stress in the home as a child, or perhaps just high expectations, whatever it is. And so, as you were saying, the eighth house is often where the trauma, or where the things that have happened that were out of our control have been stored. And so, I think Capricorn risings will be being called to look at all of that in the eye. Where were you told to grow up too
mm,
fast? Leo being all about the inner child as well. Your inner child was put in that hidden house, and now maybe it's time to ask that inner child, where does it hurt? As I was saying
yeah.
earlier.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe printing out a picture if you have one from your childhood and just like talking to that,
Yeah,
as a
that
first step. If it's like too much to do that in a group setting, like maybe just with yourself, like as a start, I think that might lead you at least into a direction that's useful and helpful.
yeah, yeah, I think that sounds really cool.
Okay. Is there, I mean, gosh, every time I talk about the eighth house, I feel like it's like the house I could talk the longest about. So
That makes sense to you.
I know, right? Well, anyhow, it's gonna be, I think Jupiter going through the eighth house for you, dear Capricorns, to like, if I can sum it up in the most brief way, you're not gonna be able to be the same person that you used to be after that. And it's gonna be worth it. And if you're going through hell, keep going because you're gonna come out on the other side eventually. It's gonna be weird, but it's gonna be so worth it because you're gonna be able to be so much truer to yourself.
Yeah, no, it'll be really, really fruitful journey once you're through the other side. Absolutely.
Yes, I guess that's all what we have. Okay, Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings. Hello, hello. Jupiter and Leo will be traveling through your seventh house. It's the house opposite to you. And Jupiter in the seventh house. You know, the seventh house is about the others. It's not about you. And obviously, it is also about you because the seventh house is a mirror to the first house. And so, what Jupiter is bringing into your life is through other people. It can be It's usually close one-on-one relationships, which don't always have to be romantic. I think I want to emphasize this because oftentimes people think seventh house is just romantic relationships. It's not. It's also like super close friends that you have. Like when I say intimate friends, I don't mean sexually intimate. I just mean like people that you share more with, which can also, for example, be your therapist. That is also the seventh house, the realm of the seventh house. So people that you just share more intimate information and things with than the average Joe in your life. And so the Jupiter energy might not be like you per se, but it might be these people bringing in that Jupiterian energy into your life, and you then grappling with that, which I think can be a bit a lot because you are a sign that, especially if you're an Aquarius rising, but also most definitely an Aquarius sun, you don't necessarily like to be perceived. You would rather just be some blob in the collective, unknown, completely fine. And now this is kind of being put to, well, not the test, we're not in the realm of Saturn, but on display. And where you're kind of running away from, well, let me put it this way. Aquarius is really good at being concerned with the people and with the folks and with the collective. So much that sometimes Aquariuses forget that they're human beings that have like needs and wants and stuff. And Jupiter and Leo is like, you have needs and wants. Like, be serious about them because you matter as well as an individual person.
Yeah, you're not a concept.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, Jupiter in the seventh can be. I feel like one of the things I hear said the most is that, like, oh, you'll meet your person, but not everyone will meet their person. I feel like one of the lesser discussed things is sometimes it can actually go the other way. You outgrow a
Mm,
relationship or
mhm.
relationships, friendships. That's not the like most common thing that I see with Jupiter in the seventh, but I think it's worth noting that it can go either way, but it can also be a really, really lovely time to like make new friends or just spend time with friends you already have as well. As you were saying, like you have needs and wants. And I think now, hopefully, Aquarius, you're going to become way more vocal about that and accept that about yourself as a human person.
Mhm.
Um, as a human person who has relationships with other human people, um, I think the drive to be connected in a less abstract way. I think Aquarius often lives in this realm of like thought and cares about society by and large, but like bringing that back down into the interpersonal can sometimes be a bit of a struggle. So if that's you, perhaps this is an opportunity to explore connection in a new way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's Aquarius energy is an energy I have a lot in my life through people. And it's just, I don't know, these observations that I sometimes have with people that, yeah, are Aquarius suns or risings or have other prominent Aquarius placements. It's just, again, this, it's so easy for them to like do things for the collective and be like, oh, like I'm not doing it this for me. Like I'm doing my creative art because it needs to serve the greater good. Maybe that's my own Jupiter and Aquarius talking here, but but just I think, and then they're kind of almost, let me put it this way. They're almost kind of like they get the ick from the fact that they have emotions and that they kind of like need to deal with that. Because they would
Mm-hmm.
much rather just go into their chambers and do like things for the collective good. And Jupiter and Leo is now like really pushing back on that and being like, hey, you are human and you have emotions and you have needs. And we're not yet in a society where you can become a full-on robot and delete all of that. Is that even, is that even the best thing? I think Aquarius oftentimes is concerned about like the perfect human being.
Mm,
The sun is in detriment in the sign of Aquarius for that reason, and they get the ick that humans are flawed, like similar to Libra. Like both of these signs, the sun is not doing well. They kind of get the ick of like human beings being flawed and them being a flawed human being. And now Jupiter and Leo is chiming in through other people that kind of are like hopefully bringing you into like, hey, you can just kind of like be yourself and express yourself, and it's okay. And it's okay to be flaws and to have flaws. To be flawed and to have flaws. That is the correct way. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. There's definitely a kind of rejection of their own humanity sometimes. I mean, that sounds extreme. That's an extreme way of putting it. So
I
for
agree
wanting,
though.
but it's yeah, like it can be a thing. And so I think accepting your humanity is without shame as well. Like, don't be ashamed of being a person, because I think sometimes that's the thing they slip into when they remember
Hmm. Hmm.
that they're an individual. There can be a shame there, perhaps because they were taught to think about the wider world, to think about others at the expense of themselves. Possibly that's not true of all Aquarius placements, but it's something I have seen frequently. And yeah, so I think getting rid of that shame is going to be a big part of it, and relationship patterns as well, of course, with the South Node
Hmm. Hmm.
as well. I think relationship patterns and potentially some conflicts coming up in that winter when Mars sort of coexists with these planets, with these points. Yeah, there could be maybe a need to resolve some things, either with yourself and your own patterns, or literally with other people as well. This could come up very from other people as well as from your own kind of battle with your own self and your relationship to relationships conceptually.
Yeah. 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 How are you relating to relationships from a conceptual level and from a real human to human level? Because I
Yeah.
know it's not the same. And, even in this tech forward world, you can have AI girlfriends and boyfriends and whatnot, and even human robots. But it's not, you know, things have to have a heart to feel resonant, and I think that's gonna make it super apparent. And sometimes opposite attract. I mean, this whole axis, like your first and seventh house axis, is gonna be super prominent in general, also because of the nodes moving in there, and yeah, I think I feel like it's really gonna come through other people, and you might like get into a situation where you find a partner or just a connection or someone you're dating, right? It doesn't immediately have to become a partner, right? Because the concept of relationships, but essentially what I'm saying here, like maybe you find yourself in a connection to someone that is like a very Leo-like person, and they're like in the limelight, and all of a sudden you're getting faced of what does that mean? Like, what does it mean if you're together with someone that is extremely public and extremely visible when you're a person that would rather be like in the back? And, like I think that is definitely something that I can totally see happening for some.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Yes. Well, nothing more is coming up for me for Aquarius right now.
No, other than maybe a partner gets more visibility for something.
Yeah.
Rather, because you said it could be you meeting someone that's visible in that way. It could be a pre-existing relationship as well.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
That like, oh, I don't know, perhaps their relatives or something. Just thinking about the Leo link to the sun and the family
Hmm.
dynamics. Just wondering if there's something there, but I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a loose thread that I've spotted. It might be nothing.
No, but I get where you're trying to go. I think,
Yes,
well,
indeed.
you know, the the unfair thing about the seventh house sometimes is that it's talking about your partner and not yourself. So again, as you said, it might be that they're getting like the benefits, if I may say, from that
Yeah,
Jupiter transit. And obviously because you're partnered with them, you're getting the benefits as well. But it's not like through you. It's not Jupiter in your first house, it's Jupiter in your seventh house. So yeah.
yeah. But it can also then create discomfort, can't it? Sometimes
Oh,
maybe there's some envy to be grappled with there as well.
for sure. Like your partner gets super famous and all of a sudden you're like, no,
I recoil.
don't look at me, don't perceive me.
Yeah,
It's okay
exactly.
to be perceived. It's okay to be perceived as a flawed human being.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, let's move on to last but not least, Pisces suns and risings. Hello, hello, Jupiter in Leo will be traveling through your sixth house. Now, the sixth house is a bit of an uncomfortable house. And it's extremely peculiar when Jupiter is traveling through that house. Because for me, the sixth house, I often refer to it as the Sisyphus house because it feels like Sisyphus pushing up that boulder again and again and again. And that is the question of Jupiter in the sixth house. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is the greater purpose behind the daily struggles that I'm dealing with? Are they even any? Or am I just kind of pushing the boulder without any real direction? It's going to be extremely interesting when Mars is there as well, because Mars has a joy in the sixth house with that South Node, because that might really bring you into a reflection of, yeah, why am I doing these things? Like, why am I doing this to myself? Do I need to do this to myself? And obviously, Jupiter is also your ruler. So that's going to be a very, very important question. Yeah. That's my initial thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. With the oh, my mind went blank. Sorry. Um, I mean, Pisces is a creative sign just generally, so I wonder if there'll be like in the day-to-day rituals, not rituals so much, but your routine or even in your work, like there could be really positive changes to your work and the ways you are showing up creatively. I don't know if it'll be a like a an extreme job change or anything, but perhaps there's
Hmm.
some movement there, some evolution of some kind that could be really interesting to work with. And with all the aspects, it could be a really mixed bag in terms of what that looks like and feels like. And as you say, chart ruler Jupiter moving on to the South Node, there's going to be a lot of unpicking of stuff that's going to really affect, well, Pisces and Sagittarius risings alike.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, the sixth house really is. It's kind of the house of the daily dishes that we need to
Mm,
metaphorically wash every day because otherwise they just kind of pile up. And that's why it's also like the house of health and illness because they kind of go hand in hand, like when you're because when you're doing the things where you're taking care of yourself, you're doing it as a prevention, if you're doing it consciously or not, but you're definitely doing it to have more longevity or to prevent getting sick or ill, right? And to just feel like good and healthy in your body. So all these things are definitely things that might be coming up. I mean, you might also be reconsidering. And I think Jupiter I don't know if that's like so specific for Pisces because I feel like Pisces usually has like a quite good relationship to again like
yeah.
creativity and intuitiveness. But if you have been like too harsh on yourself with these types of things, Jupiter I think in your sixth house is also inviting you to infuse that part of your life with more joy. Or actually, now that I'm thinking about this, because yes, Pisces, yeah, they don't have a hard time with this, but they probably get completely lost and blocked when it comes to things like, I don't know, filling out the taxes or yeah, doing the dishes. So I'm like, actually, you know what? These things can also be fun because God is in everything. So what if you do bring divinity also into these aspects of your life and then your daily chores don't feel so freaking hard anymore, like freaking hard where you almost feel like immobilized. Um, yeah, that's just kind of coming to my mind.
Yeah, maybe there needs to be a sort of reframing of all the drudgery, the tasks that seem really boring, reframing it so that it's somehow devotional, you know,
Hmm.
making it feel like it's almost an offering to your
Hmm.
own body, to your own health, or to something else if you're feeling, I don't know, find like a god of home, god of hearth or something, and like devote yourself to it. And I don't know, maybe that's too out there
Not for
for
Pisces, no.
well, no, yeah, true, true. But if you're not that way inclined, yeah, there's other ways of putting some play into it, make it more interesting. Um, there's going to be ways to sort of make it a bit more fun, a bit more Leo-esque.
Yes, yes. And also, again, Leo is fixed fire, a steady fire. So there is something about not being afraid of routines, honestly. I feel
Yeah,
like you could find a lot of peace in actually going into routines and seeing that, hey, it's actually not a cage. Like it's not the cage that I think that I'm putting myself in, and it can actually be a super fun thing. And that really lights me up and actually helps me in my self-expression or is conducive to my self-expression. And since this house also is a house of like health and disease, definitely get like your checkups,
yeah,
Leo ruling over the heart and like the chest area. I would be extra careful around that, especially if you're a Pisces sun or rising that is already prone to maybe issues around that area. Um, that is also something I would definitely take into consideration here because, yeah, Jupiter and Leo can also be big feelings that sometimes can be a bit overwhelming and therefore
yeah.
heavy on the heart for better or for worse.
Do you suppose perhaps that when the South Node Jupiter Mars conjunction goes exact, that there could be an increase in like heart palpitations from anxiety? As
Oh,
as
maybe.
there's like all the South Node stuff, or any relationships with health habits that we're uprooting at the time,
Mm.
or I don't know, maybe there'll be a rise in health anxiety for Pisces risings at that time that could also be, I don't know, something to be worked through.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being relevant for some. Yeah, and also again, getting rid of these narratives where it feels like, oh, taking care of my health is like drudgery. Like,
Yeah.
no, it can actually also kind of be fun and devotional as well.
Perhaps for the people who struggle to create a better relationship with health habits. Perhaps if you do find yourself going through an anxiety, perhaps that could be the body signaling something
Mhm.
to the person, that could be something they need to focus on more, because sometimes our body needs to do something a little weird and a little out there to get us to listen to it.
Mm.
So definitely listen to that, especially as the South Node conjunction gets closer. If you are feeling anything in there, it doesn't necessarily mean you're actually having a crisis, but it could be your body just trying to make you think about it.
Yeah, yeah. Symptoms as signals,
Yeah.
I
Yes,
would
exactly.
say. Yeah, and then listening to that for sure, for sure. And I think also, from like the more like job type of perspective, I think maybe also, and that's I think for Pisces rising specifically also prevalent with um Saturn and Neptune in the second house.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of, at least the ones that I know in my life, a lot of them have been reconsidering what do I want to do for work? Like, do I just want to, cause, yeah, a lot of Pisces I know that have a bit of a nomad lifestyle, and I saw a lot of them getting more serious around, okay, I want a stable job with a stable income to actually build something that is sustainable, that feels more secure, and that also gives me the freedom then to build something also for myself. That is 100% also something that I can be seeing, like wanting your job to actually be joyful and not just this, "Oh, okay, well then I'm just gonna go work this just to get money." Like, no, actually the work that I want to do, even if it is to get money, it can also be fun. Actually, I will say that when Jupiter in Aries was going through my sixth house, that's like the best job I had. Like I had the best team. Like I was so lucky to get like such an amazing team and I felt like so supported and I usually don't have that in my life. So just something to maybe keep in mind.
Oh, amazing. Um, yeah, I think the only other thing that I've kind of got on my mind because of the nodes being there, which I know this is a Jupiter horoscope, but because there's a strong conversation between them,
Hmm.
I think the conversation between the physical and the mental health as well will be, and it kind of links to what I was saying about, palpitations could be just a signal. Um, yeah, just how. Mm, no, the half thought is gone. Yeah, just remembering that they are linked. They are so linked. How we feel mentally and physically are not separate
Mm.
things. Those are always in conversation with one another.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's I think this quote in the Tao Te Ching where it says something like, "Oh, when the mind, when the thoughts, when what you're saying and what you're doing is aligned, like that is true peace." Easier
Mm.
said than done, right? But I think that is maybe the direction you want to be heading in your day-to-day life.
I think shout out to my cat as well for coming into the background for the sixth house because the sixth house
That
is pets. So
is
Minerva
true, yeah.
reminds us that pets are important if you have them and want.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
people you'll find you're getting a pet, maybe.
Especially a cat with Leo. Get
Yeah,
cats.
yeah, yeah.
Get felines. Don't get a lion, but get a cat.
Probably her moon and rising actually. So this is her time.
Amazing. Well, dear Pisces, we know you love synchronicities, so take this as a synchronicity.
There you go.
Amazing. Well, I don't have anything more to say to Pisces, do you?
Nope, I think I'm all good.
Okay, cool. Well, then we are officially at the end, and we have gone through each of the rising signs. Feel free to look at this again throughout the year. Jupiter stays generally in a sign for a bit longer than a year. And so this might be relevant. Like you're hearing our insights right now, but then maybe half a year into this, you can rewatch it again and you're like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense right now than it did at the beginning of this transit. Because we're all wiser once it's happening. And right now we're just, we're the archetypes that we know are kind of infusing into that. And obviously, what I also want to say is that every one of you watching is does have an individual birth chart, and just because you are, let's take the example of a Pisces risings, maybe things are configured in a different way. And that's going to then speak uniquely to you. And so, if you want to explore what exactly it means for your chart and how these transits are happening in your chart, I think both of us have our bookings open and we'll gladly, accompany you in that and give you even more specific insights into your chart and your situation and what you need to look out for and watch out for. So, if you are interested in that, I'll put both of our contact information in the description below, and so you can find both of us. But I am also going to let you shout out anywhere where people can find you. And yes,
At the moment, the only place I can really be found is on Instagram. So find me at Elfy Jareth. It'll be in the description.
yes, yes. Um, do I have anything more to say? Well, well, you can find me also on Instagram and on YouTube and on Spotify. There's a lot of, yeah, horoscope videos and just also unpacking the archetypes. There might be some separate videos. Like I'm 100% sure I'm probably just gonna do one video on just like the Sun Jupiter conjunctions and like unpacking that archetype in it itself. And so it's worth staying on that channel here. I try to keep it like very mythical and grounded and practical at the same time. So if that's your vibe, consider subscribing, consider liking this video. And if you have any questions and you want to share further thoughts from like your rising sign, and if you have any other observations that you've made in your life right now, please leave them down in the comments. I think we'll both love to read them. Or you can also message us on Instagram and just tell us like, oh yeah, this is happening in my life. Um, yeah, I think this is what we have for now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and thank you so much, Alfie, for joining.
Thanks
And
for
yeah, we're gonna see each other soon. Bye for now. Bye.